Good morning and welcome to Klingspor's Woodworking Shop, AAW Live Woodturning Symposium Virtual Extravaganza 2021.
Say that again. Sorry, I didn't hear you.
My name is Mike Z, and with me is Chris. I am the marketing and technical specialist for Klingspor's Woodworking Shop. And Chris, what do you do?
Whatever the boss tells me to do, but I dabble in a little bit of the technical as well. So, and specialize in CNC, but we're here to talk about wood turning.
Wood turning day. So, taking wood and spinning it. But before we get talking more about wood turning, let's take a look at our fantastic specials. This weekend, up until Wednesday, we're going to have 25% off select wood turning books. We'll have 20% off select abrasives, 1-inch, 2-inch, 3-inch discs, scalloped and non, 10% off bandsaw blades, 10% off Sorby, 10% off Arbor Tech, Chromacraft, CA glues, Crown tools, Rikon turning tools and accessories, as well as Easy Wood tools. So if there's something you're looking for, wood turning related, or wanting to get started, this weekend's a great time to save on doing that.
Yeah, and there's pretty good deals on there, especially depending on what you're after. But especially regarding the wood turning, and take advantage of those because not often do you see sales like that.
No, especially today. And if we don't have certain things in stock, like specialty turning tools, they are on their way over from England, such as the Robert Sorby and the Crown. So you'll be the first ones to get them, and you'll get them at a discount. So good time to get some tools.
Pre-order now.
That's right. So, if you don't know Klingspor's Woodworking Shop, Klingspor Abrasives has been in business for over 125 years, making some of the best abrasives on the planet. They have a long history of being able to tell what's good and what's bad. And so one of the things that we enjoy for wood turning is our LS312. This is our J-Flex material, comes in rolls, 1-inch, 2-inch, 3-inch, and 6-inch, I believe, as well as discs and sheets. But what's really nice about this particular abrasive is that it is very flexible. You can actually fold it in half and it won't break the glue that's holding the abrasive on. So that's the gold part. But at the same time, it's very durable because it's a cloth backing. That durable cloth backing also gives you higher heat retention. So when you're sanding by hand, the abrasive doesn't heat up as quickly as, say, paper does.
Yeah, and that flexibility it allows you to get into places that normal traditional paper backed products won't let you do. And since when you fold it, it doesn't crease, it enables you to get right into corners to do your fine detail work as well. So,
yeah, absolutely. So easy to tear. Make it. You can pretty much take like a 2-inch roll and tear it into smaller strips if you want to. We have a lot of people that do that. That way you don't have to invest in larger sheets or just single discs if you'd like to have hand tearing abilities. We also have though, excuse me, the lathe bargain box. This is for $34.95. This is 20 pounds of rolls that are end rolls of various grits and sizes. Therefore, that'll get you what you need if you just want to buy the bargain box. So 20-pound lathe bargain box is on woodworkingshop.com. It is bargain box 00001.
and you won't find that much abrasive for that low of a price anywhere else.
No.
Except for Klingspor's Woodworking Shop. 4 locations in Asheville, Winston-Salem, Hickory, and Cary.
That's right. We are a North Carolina-based woodworking supply store.
And I guess you could say we're strategically placed across the state. And what's interesting is where our locations are. It's just as easy if we have neighboring states to either come down or go up and visit one of our stores.
Yep. Or it would be just as convenient to actually put stores in neighboring states. Aww.
And for those of you who aren't local to North Carolina and can't drive to one of our local stores, we've got this thing called the web, woodworkingshop.com. You can go in there and find all the same items. You just don't get to visit the low country people of North Carolina when you do.
But you do get to ask us questions, as we do have an online chat feature that if you have a question while taking a look at a product, Chris and I, as well as many of our staff and our colleagues, are answering those questions on there. Not today so much as we would be during the week and Saturdays, but yes, it is available. If you have a question, please don't hesitate to reach out. If you leave your email in that, we will email you back as soon as we get it. If you have to run or do something real quick, that's not a problem. We'll take care of it and, send it to you in your email so you have the answer when you're ready.
Yep. And if you prefer, you can email us at sales@woodworkingshop.com and ask your question, and you use that format as well, and then we'll be able to a little bit more formally respond to your question. So a lot of ways to reach out to us. And of course, we have a phone number, 800-228-0000. You dial that up and pretty much you got all kind of avenues to get a hold of us.
All kinds of avenues to get a hold of us is right. So that's 800-228-0000.
So there's no excuse. If you got woodworking questions, ask away. Plenty of ways to get a hold of us.
So with that said, today is Woodturning Day. So we are being part of the AAW Virtual Symposium. If you are a trade show person who is over at the symposium themselves at the AAW, you can stop by our trade show booth, but we thought we'd also bring the live show, not just for the AAW, for everyone, including all of our Facebook page and our YouTube page. So therefore, everyone who's into woodturning can also get a hold of these great deals and some of the videos we have to present and some of the information in general that we want to share with you.
Yeah, and some people were like, well, man, I don't know if I can get over there and check that out by Sunday. That's why we've extended it for you till Wednesday.
That's right. So if you catch this on the replay, you will be able to get those great savings until Wednesday, July 21st.
I mean, we've pretty much made it where there's no excuses. I mean, just take advantage of us and snatch up those deals while they're available.
Take advantage of the sale. I don't want you to take advantage of us so much, but the sale is definitely something to take advantage of.
Okay, we'll go that way.
All right. So I'm trying to upload. So we had the great Jerry Meismer, and we were looking for the rest of his videos that he had. So we do have his drill press video today, as well as how he airbrushes. So that's what I'm trying to find right now because I just got done with them.
And if you missed that video yesterday, go check it out on our Facebook page or our YouTube page, and you can replay that very easily.
Sorry about that.
And there we go.
Forgot that when you selected it, automatically starts playing. Yeah, we're good. So, what were we saying, Chris? I'm sorry.
Oh, just say if you missed yesterday's video, feel free to check it out on the YouTube page, and you can go check it out there and get caught up.
Absolutely. We are at Klingspor's Woodworking Shop on YouTube. We'll have the abrasive and proud of it logo so you know it's the correct channel, which is right here.
Boom. And yesterday he showed how to turn a birdhouse.
So we have a little bit of that video today as far as finishing up. So we're going to start the turning of the birdhouse. Then he's going to go right into finishing it, as well as we have the one where he was starting to do the hole, drilling the hole and showing how slow it took. And then he brings out his custom made rig for drilling holes. You want to go ahead and get started with that now?
Sure, why not?
All right, let's go ahead and do that. We'll do the drill press jig. Now, this is the first ever viewed anywhere. We will have this posted on our YouTube page afterwards, but for the AAW, this is an exclusive Jerry Meismer and the drill jig.
Now wait, before you start, we should probably put a warning or advertisement there that we neither condone any non-safety practices that might have been shown in this video. Please be safe and follow all instructions.
Yeah, definitely follow all instructions for your manufacturer, as well as anything that the tool says in the manual. That's that piece of paper that comes with it. We're just going to say this, that since these are it's Jerry, so therefore accidents did happen on some of these. There's nothing bad, there's nothing seen, but you are going to hear him express how much pain a wood burner can bring you in the second video. This one, not so much. This one's actually all right. But yeah, for whatever it's worth, not sponsored. Always check your safety manual.
Past the perch, and we want to clean it a little bit, come back out. So as you can see, this takes some time. just drilling these things takes a massive amount of time. And the first ones I did, I guess the first, I don't know, 400 or 500, this is how we did it. It was a real fluke that I got into doing birdhouses. And they're actually in our state magazine here in North Carolina. They sell them in the magazine. And we have a couple galleries that we sell them in. But you've seen how I drilled it and see how long it took. Well, we had to come up with something, and I'm going to show you something we came up with. I got a good friend. His name is Vern Cocaine. So he came up with this thing for me. Oh. Let me see if I can get it put in here. Okay, he came up with this. Now, I've got a bigger air compressor in my shop than, I got a little pancake one here, but it works. It doesn't work as fast as my big one because I've got more pressure on it at home. But I do lock these things in pretty good, and I do lose a few. But I'd rather lose a few and drill a lot of them. A lot of it depends on the wood anyways. And yeah, we're gonna have a little noise here, but for right now, so what I basically do is just drill it like that. Now with my compressor at home, it goes a whole lot faster. But I don't have any wear on my elbow, and I can bring it in, take it out. And that's how we drill them. So we'll just chuck in another one. All right. So let's do it again. I'm getting more air now. You see it's moving a whole lot faster. And I didn't move the belt on the lathe. You see how it stopped? Okay, on the Powermatic lathe, it's belt driven, and there's two ways you can move the belt. Well, I have still got it on the high. I didn't want to change it, but just kind of tell you that's why it bogged down, because it is on the high. So that one's done. So it's not like you have to sharpen one every time, or throw one away and get another one. What I do is when I sharpen, I come up here with a file, or you can use a diamond card. But as many as I'm doing, I grab, first time it might be a diamond card, and then it might go a file, it might go a Dremel, it don't matter. But you can literally do, I don't know, I've done 300, we just turned 300 of them, 350 of them on one bit, and it was not a new bit. So, but it does get hot. It gets hot.
So what'd you think? You're muted.
I just saw the word come across the screen. You're muted. Okay, there we go.
I like how it would let you know.
Yeah, a little too late though. But no, that's redneck ingenuity at its finest right there.
No,
that video did not do it justice on how scary that sounded or looked when he first ran that in there full speed.
Well, he did probably about 10 of them all together, and that was the best one. There was one where he did it so fast. He did change the belt, and he did it really quick. And I mean, it was scary fast how fast it was. But at the same time, it was one of those where I don't know what happened, to be perfectly honest. I think all the audio cut out or something happened in that particular take where we couldn't use it. So I do have it, but yeah, that one was the best one by far to kind of give you an idea. Now, I did notice there's a lot of flex in the shaft when he was too far away. When he moved it closer, there was zero flex, and that thing hung in there like a champ. Good morning, Jerry. Figured you would like that. It's right up your alley, creating something like that would work.
Yeah, when he first pulled that tailstock off and then put that up on the bed, we were like, whoa, what's this contraption he's got going on here?
What is he planning on showing us? Because see, a lot of times when we ask Jerry to come film with us or do something with us, he's got this thing he wants to show you, but he doesn't tell you beforehand. It's kind of one of those things where he's just like, yeah, I'm just going to surprise him. That was a surprise. We weren't expecting that at all.
A pleasant surprise for sure.
Mm-hmm.
That was fun.
So we did talk about the bargain box, and we had a question come across as far as how do you tell the abrasive grit that's in that bargain box? Because a lot of times with these rolls, they're just rolls. They have the various markings on the back of the abrasive for other applications. But usually for your application, you just want to know what grit it is so you can organize it better. Well, we have this. This is basically just the backing of the paper. And what we're showing here is that you have the brand, which is that bigger Klingspor name there. Then you have the material number, which is usually going to have a letters and numbers, something along those lines, but it's usually the biggest number on the back. Then you have the grit, which is the second largest number. And then you have what's called a batch code. So the batch code, we're going to start with that, is the manufacturing date, if you will. So that's kind of something that's internal for us. So if there happens to be anything at all happens with the abrasive, we have a way of tracking it. The grit is most of the time for Klingspor is going to have a P in front of it. Sometimes it may not, but the P just stands for FIPA rated. And if you have questions on that, we have a lot of materials over at woodworkingshop.com to kind of help answer all of those abrasive questions. But here in this case, PL31 is a paperback aluminum oxide. So that's how you can kind of get an idea. We normally won't have the grit end in a number other than 0 unless it's 12, 24, or 36. The rest of them all end in 0. So if you find a 146, that is definitely not going to be a grit.
Now, I will make one point. Sometimes in the bargain boxes, you might get, if you look at that example Mike's got on the screen there, those are in a straight line across there. Sometimes you might get a piece that's torn just outside of that grit window, and there won't be a grit on it. Sadly, it's just a matter of kind of feeling it in comparison to others to kind of identify where it falls in the range. And usually what I do is I write on the back of it with a Sharpie just as a reminder. But, it is what it is. Sometimes it does fall outside that window. We've, it's the way Klingspor manufactures those jumbo rolls of materials, over in Europe. And when they stamp the back, it's kind of straight in line that way. So rare occasion you won't get the grit, but it's easy to identify once you kind of compare it.
Yeah, but sometimes you'll have something like this where it's torn, up the middle and you lose the grit on one side. Just whatever you do, just remember that if it's got a really small number and it's not ending in a 0 and it's 3 digits, that's going to be a batch. It's not going to be your grit. So you're not going to have a 236 grit, just to kind of help you out a little bit there on that one.
Yep.
Because we do have that question quite a bit. How do you read the back on it? And that's how you read the back. All right, let's talk about our new T-Act paper, our new Green Tech with T-Act. This is a great product for heavy loading situations, green wood, softwood, any kind of oily woods like that tend to load up your abrasive very quickly, and you find yourself wanting to tear it off and throw it away, and you want to be upset at the abrasive that it was loading too quickly. Well, we have Green Tech, and Green Tech is one of those products that you can simply wipe it off with a towel, or blow it off with an air compressor is the easiest way I found to do it. And then you can still have great abrasive life for a long time with the disc. I think it's like $3 more for a 50 pack. But I've gotten time and time again 4 to 5 times the life out of one disc versus some of the other ones that we use or that I have from Klingspor. So if you have a high loading situation, especially in turning where you're getting into those finer grits on some of those specialty burls and some of those things that are oily and it seems to load the abrasive very quickly, the Green Tech might be a great option for you. 20% off on 2-inch and 3-inch discs in this category. So now is a great time to give it a try. And we do sell it in 10 packs. You don't have to buy it in just 50s.
Yep. And not only is that good for bare wood, but it's also good for, paint, marine finishes, varnishes, stuff like that. So if you, have a variety of things that you do in your shop other than just using wood turning, this is a great product to get started with.
And so in wood turning, especially, this has become a very big trend, is the hybrid turning of both epoxy resins and wood in the same, form, and then you're turning it down, then you need to sand it. And a lot of times typical standard abrasives will do really well on the wood, but then they load very quickly on the epoxy. So the Green Tech is a great option for those as well. If you're, Rebecca DeGroot or something.
Or even if you're not and you want to be Rebecca DeGroot, then still.
Yeah, you could do that too.
Yeah. It's a great bridge product because it bridges the gap where other products fail. They might excel on one material but fail on the other. This Green Tech is fantastic because it excels across the board. So
it's a new product. When did that come out? 2019. So still, in the abrasive world for 125 years, yeah, that's still a new product.
Well, and they're still they launched it for the marine industry, but we have found, just like the gold sandpaper, that it works exceptionally well for other applications that it really wasn't designed for. So that proves that, just like everything else, you design a product for one way, but you find that it does good in other avenues. You take advantage of that, especially if you can eliminate other materials from the mix and just stick with one. It's a lot easier to buy, a lot easier to keep your shop organized, and you don't have to worry about, which color or which material did I need for that. Just grab the green and go.
Sorry, my mind just went blank on what I was going to say. No, was it?
You mean like a pen blank or a bowl blank?
There we go. Speaking of one way, we also have one-way chucks. That's where I was going with that one.
Oh, okay. Well, one way or another, I figured you'd get there.
Yeah, you got it. I'm there. And then also we carry the Supernovas and the Nova chucks. We have them as well. If you are looking for a chuck to go along with your lathe or to upgrade your current chuck, we highly suggest either the Supernova 2, the G3 Nova, or one of the one-way lathes, chucks.
Yeah, and that new ProTech series from Nova seems to be taking on pretty well. That's only been out probably 6 months, and maybe a little bit longer, but they've done a really good job with that. It seems like that upgrade. Most of the time when companies say we've upgraded the product, you roll your eyes and kind of hope for the best. But in this particular instance, it seems Nova did a pretty good job.
And we do have them in stock. So if you're looking to get one, you're more than welcome to. We have them here at woodworkingshop.com. Just go to shop by brand and click Nova or one way, whichever. And speaking of turning, let's see here. We're going to go right into the lathes. We had talked with Scott Caskey yesterday, and these are the 3 entry-level lathes. There are cheaper entry-level lathes on the market, but if you want something that'll last and grow with you as a turner, we have found that these 3 are probably the great starting point for any turner out there. This is personally the lathe that I want. I don't have this one, but this is the Jet 1221 variable speed, 110, 1 horsepower, but great overall lathe. Then you have the Laguna 1216. I know a couple of the guys in the store that actually own this one, and they love this lathe. So for what it's worth, it's a very good lathe as well. Heavy duty, on-off switch, easily accessible left hand. So I do like that. And then the 7150 VSR. So typically with Rikon, they came out with the 7220 VSR. So it's like a 12 by 21 and a half, I think it was. This one is their slightly smaller one to that. Still 1 horsepower motor, variable speed, just a smaller capacity on this one. But great starter lathe. Has all the accessories like a drive spur, faceplate, and a live center that comes with it. So that's not a lot of extras you have to buy. And remember that all of the Rikon turning tools are on sale. 10% off. So you can get that sweet set of turning tools from Rikon that I do have. And for myself, I'm a beginner wood turner. Still am, because I don't get to it as much as I'd like to. But that tool set was great. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I used to turn quite a bit in my younger days and absolutely miss some of the stress-free time out in the shop. Even if I did nothing but make a bunch of chips, at least I was enjoying myself and de-stressing with every chip that fell.
It's Dad Joke Central on Sunday here at Klingspor's Woodworking Shop. Here, I've got a picture of that turning set now. But what's really nice about this particular set is you have one handle, and then you have 3 bars that have the different tips on it. So you have a roughing, a detail, and a, oh my gosh, my mind just went blank. But basically you have all 3 types. You have the square, the round, and the diamond shape. They are carbide and they are index already. So they have a dot on them to where, you know, if you want to turn it to use fresh spot that you can. It's a quick change type of system where it literally drops in and you just tighten the handle. You don't have to do a whole lot of work in order to change this out. It does have accessories that can come with it, such as a counterweight, a handle, things like that.
And that's not a cheap plastic handle either. That's a very heavy duty handle, and that counterweight does offer significant balance whenever you're doing larger pieces.
Absolutely. The bar itself on the backside, and I don't have a picture of that, unfortunately, but it has 3 flats on it. So you have 2 45 bevels and then a flat 90 on it. What I like about that is that if you're trying to do a bowl and you want to come in with a shear cut, so you want to be at a 45-degree angle with that bit, it does it automatically for you. You don't have to try to hold it a round bar or a square bar like with the Easy Wood. You don't have to hold it to that angle and hope that you keep it right. This sets it for you. So for me, that was a no-brainer. That was easy peasy.
Yeah. Well, the problem is when you've got that bowl coming around, you've got that constant force pushing it. Well, it's almost impossible to maintain that angle because it's constantly wanting to tilt you. So by utilizing the bar already being at an angle, it gives you a flat area. That flat area gives you more stability when that bowl's coming around. So a lot of engineering and forethought put into this set. So nice little get up.
Absolutely. And Jerry Meismer himself has come in and let us know that they are great lathes. He has, I think, 7 of the Rikons for whenever he does teaching, and then very mobile to go do demos. That makes sense because that is actually a pretty mobile kit to take with you if you're doing demos. You don't have to have a whole bunch of tools laying around. You can just have the bars right there on the lathe, and they won't really roll over anywhere either, which is another nice feature. If you are demoing, they will sit on the bed.
Yep.
They won't roll off on you.
And the nice thing about that whole get up with the interchangeable tools is you can create little drilled holes in your workbench and literally stick them in there. And because they've got that shoulder that fits down into the handle, it makes it a lot easier. You don't have to have these huge, massive holes that, you know, you're normally, if you have a tool holder, your tool's upside down, so you don't know what's on your what particular tool you're getting ready to use. But with this, you can stick them right in there and have them facing up, so you know exactly when you're going with your rougher, your finisher, or your detail.
Rougher. That's what it was. So lots of great sales going on all this weekend. So don't miss out. Good till Wednesday. And we will say this, that if you would like to get free shipping on your order, we do have a free shipping coupon that you will have to put in. It is FS July 21. Sending that now to all of the channels. But that'll just help you out a little bit on top of the sale of everything else going on, is that you can definitely get free shipping, and it's for $40 or more. So you don't have to have a whole lot on that order in order to be able to qualify for free shipping. Now, this is just standard shipping. You cannot get free overnight air. That would be ridiculous. That's great.
And we have been ridiculous in the past, but not where we've learned our lessons.
So. Yeah, that lasted a day. We got in trouble for that one. Just like when we decided we were going to give away a lathe yesterday. And we feel bad for JP Brown, who happened to miss that lathe giveaway. But yes, we can just on the fly. We just make up things as we go. So let me see. I'm going to remove this one. So Arbor Tech, I have that down at the bottom as one of those things that is 10% off. And they just came out with the new precision ball gouge, and detail cutter. As far as I know, we will have those for our extravaganza. We do have them on order, and they did say they had them in stock. So what I did find out too is that they're going to send us a demo model, if you will. We'll have to send it back, but we will get first dibs on one to try out and kind of see what it can do. Because we at the 2016 Symposium tried out the ball gouge for the first time on some Australian burl, and Scott Caskey, who was here with us yesterday, he was demonstrating how well that worked, and it was a pretty amazing tool overall because you can put the tool straight down. So like at a 45, sorry about the black, I was spraying black yesterday, but you can put the tool straight down and it won't do any cutting. As soon as you start to tilt that ball gouge over, it starts cutting like a champ. So it was really easy to control. Well, they were saying that the same thing happened here. And George Von Dreska even got one, was playing with it, and he said the control was very easy to do. It didn't feel like it was on a small shaft, like it was going to break. So if you're looking to get into turning something and then carving it, Arbor Tech might be the way to go. And we have a video from our very own Paul Roth from last year's Woodworking Extravaganza. If you don't know, Klingspor's Woodworking Shop has had a Woodworking Extravaganza for over 20 years. It is our own personal woodworking show where we have vendors come out, we have wood clubs come out, and it's completely free to the public, free parking, free admission, and you can just walk around the entire convention center for 2 days enjoying everything there is to offer about woodworking in general.
Yeah, and if you're a fan of woodworking shows, there's always the things you hate. One, you have to pay to get in. Sometimes you have to pay to park. Sometimes you have to do all these other things. Well, we took all the gripes and complaints that people hated about woodworking shows and all the things that people said they loved about woodworking shows. We combined those and dumped everything that they hated and made it better. So we've learned over the past 20 years of how to make this show and continue to make it really good. And so we've constantly grown it in free admission, free parking, free classes, free demos, free tours of Klingspor abrasives. There's so many things that we've offered during this show that it's constantly evolving. But due to last year was the first year we didn't have a live show at the convention center. We did it virtually. Well, we're looking forward to this year. We're going to be doing it virtually again. And we learned from our first virtual experience last year. So come on in October. It's going to be a great time. We can't wait to get that show rolling again.
Absolutely. And if you're looking for more information, it'll be at woodworkingextravaganza.com. Apparently Klingspor's Woodworking Extravaganza was already taken, so therefore we had to shorten it up a bit. But we're right there, woodworkingextravaganza.com. It will be October 18th through the 23rd. Let me check my dates real quick because it's a week long this year. That'll be, yes, the 18th through the 23rd, and that's a Monday through Saturday. And I would say that the deals this week, as far as the abrasives goes on, select abrasives, may be the same deal, but company-wide abrasives. So everything would be included: drum rolls, conveyor belts, shop rolls, discs, PSA discs, hook and loop discs, you name it, the full gamut would be on sale. So if you are not interested in 1-inch, 2-inch, or 3-inch discs for wood turning this week, come back and check us out in October, where you can save even more on the full line of abrasives.
And if you're local to one of our stores, keep this in mind and check on the calendar, because the general manager has decided to do something cool. The entire month of October, every weekend is going to be a store spotlight, meaning there'll be local clubs coming out to the local store. There'll be deals, there'll be demonstrations, there'll be specials, there'll be certain classes. So there'll be an entire weekend devoted to each of our 4 stores. And then, of course, the week-long thing ending it all with the virtual extravaganza.
Yep. So what that means is that since we weren't able to have the in-person live in Hickory for everybody, on the store level, each weekend, so that'd be October 2nd, the 9th, and the 16th, and the 23rd, each store will have their own particular in-person event, if you will. And we do have vendors confirming that they are coming out to demonstrate. We will have sales at the store level, the clubs that are local to the area coming out. So it'll be a mini extravaganza in person. If you've been missing that and you're from North Carolina, then definitely check out the upcoming schedules for the 2nd, 9th, 16th, and 23rd. I do know that Hickory is the 23rd for sure. If I'm not mistaken, I think Cary's the 2nd, Asheville's the 9th, and Winston's the 16th, but I could be wrong. We'll have more details coming up soon on that when they make the final choices. But yeah, that'll be a nice deal too.
Yep, and there's some good stuff lined up too. I've heard of a couple of the things. So definitely keep check on our website, keep check on the local store, Facebook page, social media, and the calendar, of course. And there'll be emails out. And if you want to know more about it, certainly go to our website and click that sign up for email. And you don't have to create an account or nothing crazy. Just put your email in the box and click sign up, and we'll be sending out emails regarding all of the updates, and that'll keep you in tune and in touch with kind of the upcoming events. And it costs you nothing but some time putting in your email address.
Absolutely. And it looks like Jerry Meismer says he has lathe will travel. I'm guessing he may actually do every single weekend in different stores. Now that would be cool. Everyone needs to see that drill press jig.
We could start a thing. Where in the world is Jerry Meismer?
He's in North Carolina. Actually, not this past week, but anyways, yeah. That's what's nice about Facebook. You keep up with your favorite celebrities.
Wait, are you calling Jerry a celebrity?
Jerry's a celebrity. He just will never admit it because he's too humble of a man to do so.
I agree.
Absolutely. So speaking of Jerry, why don't we do this real quick? So part of I was going to do Paul, but I think I'm going to do the other Jerry video real quick because since he's here, this is quality time that we can enjoy this together.
Yeah. I mean, how often does he get to see himself?
Right. Yeah. And especially filmed. So in this particular case here, what I'm going to show you is Jerry's version of how he turns a birdhouse, which we saw yesterday, but this time it's going to be how he finishes the birdhouse. And that's both with airbrushing, Black India ink, like basically straight ink, as well as wood burning texture and ChromaCraft gilt. So this is going to be a lot of fun to check out, and stay tuned and pay attention for when Jerry shows you the safety instructions on wood burners.
Hey, wait, Mike, isn't ChromaCraft, isn't that gilting part of the stuff that's on sale right now?
ChromaCraft finishes are on sale, 10% off this weekend up until Wednesday. That's right. And along with CA glues, bandsaw blades, Robert Sorby, and so much more. So here you get to actually see the ChromaCraft dies and the gilting that is used. So
sounds like a plan to me. And this, if you like what you see, woodworkingshop.com, type that in gilting and go get you something.
That's right. Type yourself in some ChromaCraft and you'll be ready to go. Or just go to Finishes or go to Shop by Brand. We have it all over the website. However you want to find it. It's up to you.
We're going to turn this bottom down. I've already got the holes drilled. So this maple's a little bit whiter, which is real good for the airbrushing. And we're still not round. I always kind of check the top, not where that hole's at. Stay away from that hole. Let me see. It looks like, feels like it's got just a tad. I'm going to take a look, make sure we don't have a crack. Nope, no crack. We're good. Okay. We got that. We're going to do the indentation down here at the bottom. We're going to do the bead. And then we're going to get a 1/2-inch spindle gouge. And we'll make the cut right here. Make the cut there. And then we'll come back in, kind of join the lines together. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to sand it. I usually take my tool rests out. You got to be real careful going over that hole. If you use a longer piece of paper, you can go, just go like that. This cut a little bit short. Okay, let's just do that. Okay, let's put a little bit of texture on this. Ouch! Ouch! That sucker's hot. Oh. Make sure you turn off your wood burner when you get done. Now, I told you I have accidents. That thing burnt my finger. Okay, we're going to put a little texture right there. We're going to put a little texture down here. Okay? Ow, that hurt. Ooh, that one's hot. I usually don't do my wood burning close to my lathe. Okay, this is just a round rod that I put little points on. So we're going to put a little indentation there, a little one here. And let's put one down here and one down here, okay? So let me show you what we got. All right, let's see the texture. That looks fine. All right, so now we're gonna do some painting on it. Okay, this is airbrush, and this is for you guys that don't know, it's Chromacraft. I really like the Chromacraft. I'm not here to sell products, but I seen a demo Nick Agar did, and I like the product. So I kind of, when I did my first one here, I sent a picture of it to Nick. So we're going to do a little yellow. I did a lot of yellow. And then I think I'm about out of yellow. Let me turn it on. There we go. Okay, that's yellow. And then I got another, this is red, so we'll do a little red. Red and yellow make orange, right? So we're going to do a little orange. And then we're going to do a lot of red down here. I'm going to pull it back a little bit. Okay, then we're going to do black. I got a little carousel down here for those who don't see it. It's just got, oh, that's green. I want green, I want black. Okay, I'm going to do this all in black. It's a rich black, that's what I like about it. And I want to kind of fade it in right there. I'll do the same thing, kind of fade it a little bit, okay? So you see what, we're going to show you what we got right there. Okay, so far that's what we have. Okay, the next thing I do is I was teaching a college how to wood turn. I had them in my shop. I had them for 30 days. 30 days and 30 students. And we had my whole shop full of lathes. And as a thank you, the college professor gave me this whole package of ink. And I didn't know what, I guess that's what they do. I never considered myself an artist. I've always wanted to be a craftsman. But he gave me this Indian ink, and I said, well, I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but this is what I came up with. I hope I don't make a mess. So, I put a drop on here, and then I spread it around. Get any in there. I'm about out of it. I need to do another class for the college so I get some more. Hey, I like the free stuff. Now you can tell Coleman why my smocks don't stay clean. There we go. And you can do this kind of stuff with plates. It don't matter. Different colors look good. Chromacraft has different products you can use. I usually have a foam brush, but we're going to put it on with my fingers this time. I like using the foam brush because I can get just to that edge. My fingers kind of round it off, so see how it just brings it out? Just that little bit of silver. Oh gosh, see, that's why I use a foam brush. Well, I'm not going to be able to get it off. I don't think I'm going to be able to get it. Thank you. Oh well, you get the gist of it. And you can put on it almost as much as you want. Okay, see how I put that little bit more on there? But it just makes it look aged. Okay, that's enough of that.
Is that the gilting?
This is the gilting. Yeah, they have a bronze and a gold. It depends on what color I'm doing. But
so there was the finishing by Mr. Miesemer himself.
It's always fun to watch the pros at work.
I know. And you know he's a pro because he went to take the paper towel to clean up the little bit of gilt that he got on the body, and then actually uses an applicator to apply the rest of it because he needed a straight line. And that was one of the things we were talking about with safety, as far as whenever you're applying a finish, it's better on a lathe to do it with some sort of apparatus. That way, if it gets caught on there, it's not going to hurt you. So like a foam brush would just tear, the paper towel would just tear, your finger, not so much. So that was our caveat to safety.
And you think it hurts to have your knuckle put into a chuck while you're manually rotating it, where your whole hand gets pulled into a tool rest while the machine's running because your rag gets caught.
And what I've learned by watching Jerry and after listening to his story, if you hadn't heard his story, he's pretty much broken every finger, I think, in his hand now, in both hands. Been struck by lightning several times. Like, basically, it is a blessing he's still with us whenever he comes to talk to us. And so one thing that we noticed, and I'm paying attention to more in the videos, is that when he was sanding, he must have gotten his pinky caught in the hole at some point, because I noticed his pinky raised up out of the way. So kind of gives me a little insight as to what the injuries were without him actually telling you the injuries. If you watch his hands and how he does things, it's kind of interesting. But in the one that part of that we had cut out from yesterday's video of turning the whole thing, is that while the lathe's spinning, he bends down to pick something up and he almost hits the lathe. So later on in the video, he does make a comment where you're not supposed to bend down to pick things up while the lathe's still running. And that was the reason why, because he must have gotten injured doing that as well.
Yeah, not a surprise though. But the lessons you can learn from watching him turn and the techniques that he uses, it just goes to show that everybody's got a different method to achieving the same thing. And sometimes just being willing to try something new and different, turns out to be one of the best cool techniques you could think of. I mean, think of using that India ink and then using the airbrush to kind of spread that around. Who'd have thunk it? What a great little technique that it gives you that artistic touch and gives it a really nice, really sets the piece apart, having those little features.
Absolutely. And Jerry says School of Hard Knocks, without a doubt.
I think we've all attended that school at least once.
At least once. I'm attending it right now. I'm kidding.
I have a master's degree.
So we also have we have the same video presentation from Scott Caskey yesterday. We have Paul Rolfe showing you power carving on turning, and then we also have Michelle Parsons in wood burning is the videos that we have coming up today, as we have 3 hours of fantastic live event left to host.
And, you know, that's one thing I've noticed that started to kind of cross over is usually wood burning was always more traditionally in the wood carving realm. But what I'm noticing is a trend is more and more people are utilizing multiple mediums and multiple crafts into one. So like wood burning now is really crossing over very heavily into wood bowls. Most of the time, the only time you'd ever see anybody do any wood burning on bowls is when they sign their name to the bottom of it. But now you're starting to see a lot more decorative, a lot more artistic features being presented into wood turning. So it's kind of exciting to see some of these formats that once were just thought of a very niche, now are crossing over and becoming more mainstream. So
Nietzsche, that's a new word for today.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, I forgot about this one. We'll do this one. Hold on one
Good
second.
morning and welcome to the Klingspor's Woodworking Shop 20th Annual Extravaganza.
So I'm Mike Z.
So real quick, sorry, I forgot. Whenever I add videos, it jumps right into it. But this is basically a quick description of our abrasives that we have. So if you're on the website right now at woodworkingshop.com and you're trying to figure out which is the best for you, then by all, then by all means, let us show you this video here.
Chris.
And today we're going to talk about our abrasive discs. Why do we have so many different choices? What are they used for? And why should you pick what you're about to take a look at?
Well, at Klingspor's Woodworking Shop, we sell a lot of different products, but we are well known for our abrasives. And that's the thing we get the most questions on, so we wanted to cover that for you. We're going to cover all of our common materials, even some you probably have never even heard of. We're going to cover them and hopefully give you a better explanation and a brief summary of what each of them do and how they can perform in your shop.
Absolutely. So let's take a look at the very basic, simplest thing we have is our sampler packs. We have these in 5-inch 8-hole, 5-inch 9-hole for the Festool users and the 125s. And we also have a 6-inch 15-hole. This fits the new Boss GET75 as well as the all Festool sanders and even the old school 6-inch 6-hole sander. So this is a fantastic buy. If you have any 6-inch sander out there, this will pretty much fit it in one of the hole patterns that's configured on it.
And we've included our most common materials in different grit ranges in these sampler packs. And what you'll find is this pretty much covers it all and gives you a good taste of a little bit of what we've got to offer.
Yep, you're going to get 5 discs of each grit from 60 all the way to 600. We know that might not fit everybody's need at every time in the shop, but you'll find yourself where you may need that 600 grit or that 60 grit, and this is a perfect sampler pack to cover it all.
Yep, and it'll be some of the in-between grits. At least it'll give you a good opportunity to see what you like, what you don't like, and in that way, moving forward, you'll know which exactly material you need for your job and your application in your shop.
Absolutely. So let's take a look. What's one of the very first things that we have? Probably our #1 selling product, the PS33 Stairway discs.
Yep. You'll notice it by sort of its tan white color, and also on the back it says PS33.
Yep. So why do we call it a Stairway disc? Well, what makes this different from any of the other Stairway discs we have is that the Stairway is actually built into the size coat, and what the size coat is that layer of glue that locks the grain into place. So if you use water-based finishes or anything where you say that Stairways may be a concern or a problem, the 33 is a great disc to consider because it doesn't shed the Stairway.
Right, and you'll find that it gives you reasonable life, and the price point's fantastic. So that's an even bigger bonus. Much more cheaper than anything you'll find in the big box for sure.
Absolutely, and if you're going to stain a project, I highly recommend checking those out in the 150, 180 grit because it leaves one of the nicest scratches that blend right in with the wood when you're about to stain.
Yep, and this works whether it's a hardwood, softwood. It also works well whether you're doing painting applications, primer applications. So all of your bare wood and paint and primer applications, this is a good solid go-to, and it works even well on epoxy finishes. We have other products that work better, but this is a good all-around universal disc.
Yep, that's why it's our #1 selling disc because it pretty much fits a lot of applications. Would it be the one disc that does everything? Not quite that, but it will definitely get the job done. So that's why we have so many discs. We have discs that do more aggressive applications. If you need something coarser, more aggressive, faster acting, and something that doesn't load as much, say like our new Green Tech, that's better than the PS33 as far as loading is concerned. insert.
Right. So we'll cover more of these as we go, but this is our #1 seller, and that's the PS33. So what makes this unique, the PS33, is it's an aluminum oxide grain, which is pretty tough, solid grain. It works great on all those applications I mentioned earlier, the paint, primer, bare wood, plastic, solid surface, fiberglass, etc. The added bonus of the Stairway being impregnated is you don't have to worry about any shedding that may occur with a Stairway that's added on top of, like the extra lube would be. Typically this comes in a B or C weight paper. You'll find this in the 60 to 1500 grit option, so that's helpful. So you got a good full range of material and grit availability. You can get it in 10 pack or 50, and it comes in a huge range of hole patterns, sizes, and so that makes it easier to find as well. It is available with the hook and loop coating or the PSA, either one. And again, as we said earlier, by far the most popular disc material that we offer.
So next we want to talk about our AZ Plus, and what AZ Plus is aluminum zirconia with a stearate coating, our PS36 material. And this is great for your 36 to say 100 grit range. If you want really heavy stock removal, very aggressive sanding disc, this is what you want to go to. It's available from 36 to 220 grit, but we also have it in 10 packs and 50 packs in your most popular hole sizes. It is a very sharp, tough, durable grain, so it will last a lot longer than most on the market, but at the same time, whenever you're looking for something that maybe you're going to be staining or finishing the piece bare wood, this might not be the best disc right before staining because that aggressive scratch is pretty aggressive. So you may see swirl marks, which isn't a problem when you're in the coarser grits. That's why you always follow it up with a PS33 or even the Green Tech. All right. Next that we have is our Green Tech. This is a proprietary to Klingspor. No one else has a material like this. It is available in your more common sizes, 5x8, 5x9, 6x17, 6x48 hole, several options to choose from as well as 6x15. But what makes Green Tech unique is that if you can tell, there's a bit of a shine to it. There's a coating over top of this which allows for loading to not occur. And if it does occur, it will either flick off, blow off with an air hose. It comes right off. It's pretty amazing stuff. And that's what we call our T-Act. That's a proprietary coating we put on top of it. Now the PS77, as you can tell here, where it's solid, this is a paper bag. The paper bag is available from 60 grit up to 220 grit, and then we switch over to a film back, which you can see is clear here. You can actually see the writing on the back. Both have the same properties except for one thing. The film is from 320 to 2000 grit. It's waterproof, where the paper is not waterproof. So for the resin applications, like the river tables everyone's doing, or any kind of resin application, even in turnings, this would be a good option because if the epoxy resin is not fully cured, it does load up abrasives rather quickly. And in this case, you can flick it off and you can move on very easily and still save the disc. So the service life on this is very high in comparison. One thing I would like to note though is that because of the T-Act on there, there's more grain exposure. So there's a lot more grain being exposed to your work surface. With that said, if you're used to using a 120 grit and maybe other manufacturers, I highly recommend going up 1 grit when you start just to see how you like it, because it does seem to act more aggressive at first because there's more grain exposure. But more grain exposure does mean longer life.
So the next item we want to talk about is our VP73 material. This is a latex infused paper, and it also has an extra layer of the stearate, which adds extra lubrication when you're doing a lot of heavy resinous materials or trying to sand things that are definitely going to load. What makes this really unique is this with this latex infusion is it's got very, very good edge wear. That means as you're running up against the sides of cabinet parts or furniture pieces, you're not going to have those really frayed edges like a traditional paper will give you. So it's a very, very durable product. This material comes in 80 to 220, available in 10 to 50 pack options, and of course all of your common size and hole pattern configurations. And so if you're doing any kind of work with bare wood, between coats of paint, primer, even on rubber or body fillers, this is a very good option to look at.
And I would also look at this option for solid surface. Due to the fact with that extra stearate coating, you don't have to worry about adding water to the application. So it's also a very good use for it as well.
Okay, so the next product we want to talk about is our standard aluminum oxide. This is typically referenced, even though these others were made of aluminum oxide, this is what we typically refer to as our heavier material. It's a cloth back product, and you typically are going to find this with the adhesive backing, and we sell these a ton for your small disc machines or even your large disc machines. And this comes in a range of different sizes, but it is available with the PSA, so it'll put right to your metal plate for whatever sander you might be using. And for those type sanders, you do want to go with the cloth. The cloth is a much heavier backing than the paper, so you're going to get a lot longer life, and it also allows for better dissipation of the heat, which helps translate into a much longer life as well. So that's just common things we definitely want to look at with this this aluminum oxide. And typically that is going to come in either an X or a YX or a YY backing, depending on what grit. And you might be saying, well, why is he saying all these letters? Well, the paper backing is dealt with, you know, A through F in its weight rating. The cloth is dealt with letters. So you're dealing with typically a J or a J flex all the way up to, you know, even a Z weight, which is extremely thick and very, very tough. So most of the time though, this is, like I said, it's either going to be an X to a YY option, and that's going to be certainly a benefit in your shop when you're trying to outfit your different sanders or plate machines. Okay, so the next option we're going to discuss is also an aluminum oxide, and you can see it's red in color just like the 311 was. The difference is this is our PS29. We usually refer to this as our heavyweight material, not because it's a heavyweight like the X or the Y, but it's the heavy in your paper. It's an F weight or an E weight paper back, and this is pretty tough. This is great for doing leveling of glue ups and things like that because it is a thicker paper backing. This particular aluminum oxide is also available in the coarse grits from 40 to 400. You can get it with a cling-on backing or a hook and loop backing or PSA, either one. And then we've got it in a variety of different package options from 10 or 50, and it's all your common hole sizes and patterns as well.
So next we have our gold discs. These are our cloth discs. This is our gold material. Typically you'll find this in our bargain boxes or in roll form, but we also make the disc if you're a turner out there and you want a very durable cloth backing, but yet very flexible. It doesn't break the grain when you fold it in half. The gold disc is a good option. This is made more for the metal industry than it is wood, but it does work really good in high heat applications. But what's on top of this that makes it gold is called a multi-bonded lubricant, and that is to keep the heat down when you're using it on metal applications, non-ferrous metals, things of that nature. But what we like it for in the wood market is for turning or high heat situations. It's still an aluminum oxide grain, so there's no difference there from our other aluminum oxide. It's just on a cloth backing that's very flexible rather than the other cloth we had a moment ago that is more durable and harder to fold.
Hey Mike?
Yeah.
I think they should go for the gold.
All right. This is available in 80 grit to 400 grit. Another widely used application for this is in our belts. We have a lot of our gold standard sharpening belts out there. So if you need a disc that cuts the same as our belts do, that's why we have this option available. It's in 10 packs only, hook and loop backing, but very flexible, perfect for contour. In talking about hand sanding, we also offer this product. This is a 5-inch hook and loop folded black hook disc with foam in the middle. And what this does is that you can take any 5-inch disc that's hook and loop, wrap it around it, and now you can do contour sanding, so you can get in those tight corners or anything along those lines. And you can do this with almost any of our hook and loop discs. This is part number FR50500, and this is a good option as well. New to the market is our Klingnet material. This is a nylon impregnated with abrasive grain, aluminum oxide. It's got Kling-On on the back, and what you'll notice is that we don't offer it any hole patterns because the whole thing is full of very small holes. So no matter what 6-inch disc you have and the hole patterns that you have with it, this disc will work on that. We offer it in available grains from 80 grit up to 800 grit, so you can definitely find something that will work in your application.
All right, so another cool disc product, and this is probably one of the most underrated products we offer, but has so many versatile options, is the Fusion Foam. The Fusion Foam is a foam-backed product, but as you can see, it's a very dense foam, but yet it still has enough cushion to get the job done. If you're trying to level or surface something, this is not what you want to use. But if you want a really, really great finish and great surface scratch that's going to be left, this does a fantastic job. You might notice that the grit range has two options here. This is one of the cool, unique factors on this that not many people know, is if you use this on the slower setting of your speed of your sander, you're going to get the lower number. If you go to the higher setting of your speed on your sander, you're going to get the higher number. This gives you a lot of versatility, especially in the higher grit range, because this thing does come in an amazing range of products all the way up to 3500 grit. So you can go from 120 to 3500 using one product. This is fantastic on bare wood. This also works well on plastics, so your epoxies, your solid surface. It does really well on your paints and primers as well. This is just an amazing product. It comes in 5 and 6 inch, but other sizes can be punched out. I know we stock it in the 11 inch as well for the gym, so that is certainly a go-to product for me in my shop. I absolutely love the Fusion Foam.
Next up is our CS710, also known as Trublue. It's a heat-treated aluminum oxide on a flexible cloth backing. You'll notice the deep blue color. It's an easy way to distinguish it from some of the other materials we've looked at. Now, it's not on a paper or a traditional J-flex or stiff cloth. It's a very unique cloth that's flexible. Notice how it's very flexible in one direction, slightly rigid in another. This makes it ideal for a lot of contour applications or even flat work because of the rigidity of one direction versus the other. Trublue is ideal for a lot of your man-made materials like particle board, plywood, MDF, and more. It's also fantastic on hardwoods. Because of the heat treatment that's applied to this grain, it makes it very, very tough, but it also produces a very, very smooth, clean finish. It gives you extreme life and is available in 80 grit all the way up to 240 grit and is in cling on only. It's available in a 10-pack and it also in select sizes and hole patterns to fit most common sanders available. So reach out today to check out how this product can make your next project turn out fantastic.
So next we have our PL35 silicon carbide stair rated discs. These are fantastic for in between coats of finish. That silicon carbide grain is extremely hard and sharp. One of the benefit factors of it is called friability, and in that friability that means it fractures. So think of an icicle that starts out sharp, and as you break the icicle it still reveals sharp edges. Same idea goes into the properties and the abrasive life of silicon carbide. Very light pressure is required to get it to perform, so never bear down on it. But you'll see this is Stair coated, so it helps against loading. In between coats of finish will give you a consistent scratch from one side of the piece to the next. So that means if I'm starting on this side of the desk and I'm working all the way to that side and I want a same scratch from this to that side, silicon carbide is your choice. When it starts as 120, it will remain 120 on the other side. So we offer these in a liner 100-pack PSA, and so you can get them in a box or you can get them with the tabs on the back. Either way, these are great for in between coats of finish, fiberglass, gel coat applications, anything like leather and plastics. This would be something to check out.
Next is our PS11 aka wet dry silicon carbide on a waterproof paper backing. Applications include glass, stone, paint, varnish, plastic, epoxy, automotive, and rubber. Silicon carbide is the hardest grain available, second only to diamond. It is also most fragile, fracturing off during use to expose more sharp grain. With waterproof being one of the properties, this combination makes an ideal disc for all finish sanding, glass, and epoxy. Available in 60 to 2000 grit, in 10 or 50 packs with Kling-On or PSA backing. It's also available in most common sizes and hole patterns.
All right, next up we have our non-woven discs. Non-woven are unique in that it looks like it's woven fibers together, but in reality, unlike our grains that are on our traditional disc where the grain is applied to the top, non-woven fibers are overlaid with a resin to lock them all together.
makes it a very porous, very soft type products. These are also known as scuff pads, and they're used quite a bit for heavy removal on your coarser grits to even polishing on the finer grits. These are aluminum oxide or silicon carbide, depending on which material you get. They're great for scuffing, rust removal, polishing, finish sanding on wood, metal, or plastics. And because they're waterproof, it makes them ideal for a lot of polishing on epoxies and other materials. They're super durable, but yet leave a very, very nice soft scratch. Coarse grit is about 80 to 100, medium 180 to 220, very fine 600 800, or non-abrasive has none at all on a Klingon backing and available in common sizes with no holes.
So we hope that kind of explained a little bit more about all of the different abrasives that we carry. We have so many more, but they are not always available in disc and roll and sheet form. Typically they're belts, but for the most part, we have abrasives that fit certain applications. So therefore, that's what they're meant for. But we have found, being that a woodworking shop, that we have a lot of customers that get quite creative and find other uses for them as well.
Well, and one of the things that always stands out, and we get this question a lot when people first find out about us, is why in the world do you have so many different options? Well, we're part of an abrasives company, so if we only offer two things, I mean, that wouldn't be suitable for most of the industries. So by us having so many options and most of them even overlapping, it enables us to really help identify what the customer's trying to do and really get them the right product for their particular job, as opposed to something that just kind of blanket covers, a couple dozen things. So this is what really helps set us out apart from most of the rest of the competition, and especially with the big box or your local hardware, is that we're specialists in this market, so we can dial in and get you exactly what you need, which is going to save you time, money, and definitely a lot of aggravation.
Yep. We don't get paid on commission. So therefore, like other abrasive manufacturers where they say, oh, hey, this is what you need, this is the best right now, they're getting paid more to sell you that. With us, we try to find you the proper abrasive for your application, or something in your particular application that maybe is a little bit different from someone else's, where this product will actually last you longer, better, and it may seem like it's less cost effective up front, but really you're going to get better performance out of it if you use it properly. All of that takes into consideration of why we are an abrasive specialist rather than just another reseller.
Yeah, and that's crucial, because with everybody doing slightly different things, it's always important to find out that application. And we get that a lot on our chat line. People just say, hey, I'm looking for your best paper for, best sandpaper. Well, we ask questions and dial that down. Not only what's the best sandpaper, but do you need disc, sheets, belts? And then once we find that out, we dig deeper and find out applications. So we really try to help you get the right thing for your job. So if you've got questions, just don't buy something off the shelf just because you think that's the most popular thing or the right thing or the cheapest thing. Get with us. We can help dial that in for you and give you several suggestions in most cases that will not only get the job done, but in comparison to what you might be currently using, get a lot better life, a lot better performance, and in most cases, even a better finish.
Absolutely. And so you can always call us at 800-228-0000 or woodworkingshop.com. Where on woodworkingshop.com, Monday through Saturday, we do have our chat line in the lower right-hand corner. You can ask us questions there. And if you're in a rush and you can't, you can't stick around for a while, but you do have a question about something, you got to get back to your project, leave your email in there, and we will strictly only use it for that particular purpose. We don't use it for anything else. And then if you just want to send us an email, such as you have these pictures of, hey, I've got this project, this is what I'm doing, and you want to give us the most amount of information you can to get the best answer, then sales@woodworkingshop.com is the way to do that. And Chris and I will tell you that every time we get the question, what is your best abrasive, we have probably 5 follow-up questions that go along with it, because there isn't a best. And us being in abrasives and have done this for so many years, I mean, combined we're like 50 years of woodworking, that it comes to a point to where you find out that, okay, so everyone's application's different. They all might be similar, but they are different. And so let's find out what you're doing and get you the best abrasive for your application.
Yeah. So, I mean, and there comes where you may need to actually call and talk to us. 800-228-0000. And, you know, Mike and I are usually available during the week that we can certainly help you out.
Yep, absolutely. And
now, don't
like I
call
said,
this week because we're going to be doing another show. But
give us a call.
Normally we'll be there.
Normally, yeah. We'll just have a live show all week long because all next week we have another conference that we're doing, and to which we are helping out all of our North Carolina high school teachers and their trades program to, you know, make the best educated decisions when it comes down to showing their students the trades for abrasives, because we get this question a lot. So therefore we want to make sure that you understand that we are here to help. That's exactly what we're here for. We are not salespeople that are just going to sell you something and, you know, hope for the best. We actually want to help you because we are also still there when you have a problem arise or something didn't work as far as we were hoping. We're here to help the whole time. So we're never going to just, you know, fly by night. That's definitely not how you stay in business for 125 years.
Right. And there's been more than one time I've talked someone out of product because it didn't really suit their needs. So, you know, we're here to help you. That's our whole end goal. If you walk away happy and feel like you've been educated or been given the right service, that's what we strive for at Klingspor's Woodworking Shop.
That's right. Service above all else. And then if you want a little sarcasticness, we'll throw that in there too.
Yeah, we specialize in that.
By far. But this weekend, up until Wednesday, we've got 20% off select abrasives. So as you can tell here in the photo, is going to be your discs of 1, 1.5, 2 inch, and 3 inch, both scalloped and non, as well as we are going to have 25% off of books. So that's great. And that's on turning books. So anything that you go to our book section on the web and then you select the turning subcategory, you are going to get 25% off of those books, as well as 10% off the following. We have bandsaw blades, all sizes. Robert Sorby, all products. Arbor Tech, all products. Chromacraft finishes, all products. CA glues, that is both the big bottles, the thin, medium, and thick, as well as the small bottles, the applicators, the syringes, you name it. Anything CA glue related, including activators, will be 10% off. And crown turning tools, Easy Wood tools and their carbide inserts, as well as Rikon turning tools, accessories, and much more. So shop woodworkingshop.com for all of our savings this weekend for the AAW International Woodturning Symposium 2021.
Excuse me, Mike. I have to go to the website and place my order.
Yes, you do. Get on there. Get you a book. 25% off. That's a good deal.
A couple books I've got my eye on for sure.
And while we're at it, let's say, you get there today and you're like, oh man, I don't want to pay $7.99 flat rate shipping. That is just not what I am into. I tell you what, we'll send you a coupon code here for free standard shipping of anything $40 or more.
What a deal.
That coupon code is going to be FS July 21. That's good till the end of the month. Oop, spoiler alert. Sorry about that. That's it. We're done. It's not Wednesday now for the free shipping. It's till the end of the month. I've messed it up. All righty. So we've done a little bit of turning. We've done a little bit of finishing. We've done a little bit of burning. Now let's see if we can take a look at how we actually are supposed to use a wood burner properly by the famous Michelle Parsons. This is the short video. If you would like to see the full-length video on wood burner beginner mistakes, check out our YouTube page at Klingspor's Woodworking Shop. We have a fantastic video there of everything to watch out for if you're just starting out wood burning. But in this one in particular, she's showing you the differences between a regular burner, a unit burner, and all of the different pieces to go along with that and some of the accessories to kind of get an idea of which one maybe is the best one for you to start out with. So without further ado, Michelle Parsons and the beginner wood.
I've been teaching pyrography to students across the U.S. for over 15 years, and I've taught over thousands of students in a classroom setting. I teach at the International Wood Carving Congress, the Southeastern Wood Carving School, the American Wood Carving School, and many others, and enjoy teaching very, very much. So I'm going to share some of the tips with you today that I have learned in teaching students who are beginners and just starting out.
Ready whenever you are.
So whether you're new to wood burning and trying to figure out which type of burner you want to use, or whether you're trying to figure out you're using a solid point burner and you want to migrate to a wire tip burner, I'm going to tell you some of the differences between the two types of burners. So we're going to start here with the solid point burners. So what I have here on the table is the solid point burners and the wire tip burners. And we'll start with the solid point burners. They're called solid point because they have a brass tip that is solid. And you screw these on and off. You change out the tips this way. And it's the pen handle and the solid point and a cord that you plug into a receptacle. And that's all this unit is. This one here has a rheostat on it. This one is one temperature. The only way to change colors of the burning with this one is to change the speed. This one here has a rheostat, so you can adapt and change the color of the burn with that. Then we have, when you change over to the wire tip, wire tips have a Nichrome wire. And these heat up and cool down very quickly. The wire tips over on this side come in either a single pen burner or they come in a dual pen burner. And they all have a transformer or a control box, and they're cabled into the pen. The reason I wanted to show you this one is this is entry level, and the wire to the pen is actually hardwired into the unit, so you can't switch it out. When you move up to the next model, you can actually take the wire off if you should damage it or something, or it should go bad. You can actually unscrew it from the back of the unit and then replace the cord. Now each of these, the pen actually comes off the tip, off the wire. So you can separate them and change out pens. Okay, over here I have a dual burner, which is 2 pens, and it does not mean that I can use both pens at the same time. It means that I can switch back and forth between the 2 sides. So with this unit, the reason you would want a dual as opposed to a single is it allows you to change out and have different cords. I can put a standard general burning cord on this side for lower temperatures and a heavy duty cord so that you can burn at high temperatures. Or I can do what I'm showing here. I demonstrate with this one a lot. I can put one type of cord on this side that accepts this as a razor tip pen. And I can put on this side a cord that actually accepts another brand like Coalwood. And you notice that the ends of the cords are different because the ends of the pens are different. So it allows me to use any type of pen on this machine. So it's however you want to configure it. You can also have 2 pens hooked up at the same time and easily switch back and forth between the 2. Okay, so the main differences between the solid point and the wire tip, first one is cost. The solid points are very inexpensive, whereas the wire tips, you can get into some money depending on what level you go up to. The other difference is how long it takes to heat up and cool down a tip. Now this tip right here takes about 5 minutes, I've timed this one, to heat up, and it takes 5 minutes to cool down as well. So brass holds its heat very well once it does fully heat up, and it retains its heat. These, on the other hand, the wire tips, they heat up in seconds. And they also, there are a few tips that actually take longer because they have brass inside of them. Here's a good example. This one right here, inside the ball is brass to keep the heat high. So this one will take longer to heat up, but most of them take just a few seconds to heat up and they're ready to go. They also take a few seconds to cool down. This is very sensitive to air current. So like if you're using a fan to get rid of your fumes so you're not breathing them, and if I put it right here and blow it across my work, what's going to happen is this wire tip is so sensitive that as I go in and out of that air current, it's going to change temperatures on me very dramatically. So you want to take your fan and blow it away from you to get rid of the fumes. and that way it doesn't affect your temperature of your pen, and blow it away. Also, if you're burning outside and you're having a lot of wind, put a shield up so that the wind is not blowing across your work. Sometimes there's different air gusts, like it's almost impossible to do any burning at the beach because it comes from multiple directions, and in that case you're not going to be able to burn outside because the air will keep changing your pen temperature. The other thing that changes your pen temperature is going to be your surface. Now this wood is very cold, and I want to show you what happens when you burn on a cold piece of wood. So when you're working on a cool surface like this, what's going to happen is the cool wood is going to take the heat right out of this pen. So right now, I've got it adjusted to where it's getting hot because I'm holding it up in the air, but as soon as I put it down on the wood, it's going to turn black, and then as I pull it, it's going to get lighter and lighter, and now look, I have nothing. And the way you get around that is to simply hold it up in the air, and you can either blow on it and put it down here, but I've noticed that by the time you get it back down to the wood, it's going to start heating up again. So if you don't want a black blob and then nothing, what I do is I just take the very tip of it and very lightly, just barely touch it. And that way it starts cooling it down, and then I come down and start burning. The other thing, if you notice, what I'm doing is keeping short strokes. I keep my strokes at about 1/2 inch. And if I want this darker or longer, I can do a second row. If I want to get it darker, I just turn my heat up a little bit and do the whole thing again. Okay, and I can fill in where it gets lighter and then do the second row. If I start seeing that it gets lighter, I can hold it up a second and then continue. See how much darker it got when I held it up? What that's doing is, if I keep my stroke short, it's allowing the pen to recover its heat. If I drag it out too far, it can't recover. So if I put it down and then drag, then I have nothing. So it's not a matter of just monkeying with the dial, it's a matter of your technique and allowing your pen to recover heat. That is totally different than working with the solid point burner. The solid point burner holds its heat better. It does eventually cool down a little bit with the wood, but it's retaining that heat better. When you're working with a wire tip though, you need to just learn the technique of just watching and keeping that heat inside of your pen tip. Now you can do shading with little circles and things like that. If you want to keep it on the wood and do circles, then I would turn my heat up. But when you're doing this type of shading, it models it. It's good for clouds and fluffy things. But if you want flat shading, then I would just do that. So the trick is on the wire tip burner, it's very critical that you, right now I've got it turned off, but I want you to see, you need to keep it perfectly flat. If I lean it to one side or the other, I'm going to get streaks on one side or the other. So it's critical that you keep it flat. Here I'm going to just do a little bit of shading. Now watch what happens if it's not, it's important whether you're leaning it to side, but it's also important how high or low you're keeping this pen. If I lean it back too far and I pull it, look what happens. I get a double line. If I tip it up just a little bit more, so it's more in a 45-degree angle, then I can get more of a flat shape. Like this. And I also tip it up a little bit higher sometimes, and I write with this tip. Even though it's not a writer, I can make lines with it. So mainly you're wanting to be in this area right here at about a 45-degree angle to get that nice and flat. You see how much darker it's gotten. It's now heated up fully. And I can get a nice black by just doing my short strokes. But if I get too light, I just hold it up for a second and just keep going. And if you see any kind of streaks in there and you want to get rid of them, go the opposite direction when you're done. If you're really wanting to blend it in. So another major difference between the solid point burners and the wire tip burners is the distance from your hand to the tip. Now if you notice here, my hand is pretty far back from the tip, and if I hold this particular point at the right angle so that it's askew and it's on the wood like this, my hand is way up in the air and I can't get my pinky down to support my hand. So what I end up doing is putting my wrist under here as my support. You can also roll up a washcloth and put it under here, or put a sock roll under here, or a block of wood. Block of wood's not very nice for your hand, but something to support your hand, because otherwise it's the same thing as if you took a pen and you were going to write with it and you're holding it up in the air and trying to write your name. That's how much control you've got that you've lost by not supporting your hand. This is a wire tip, and you see now that my hand is very close to the point, down to the tip, and I can rest my hand easily on the surface and use it just like a writing pen or a pencil. And that gives me a lot of control on that. So another big difference between the wire tips and the solid point burners is the variety of pen tips that you have available to purchase. This one right here is the smallest ball made in the world. There's actually a ball on the end of this pen, as opposed to this one's not even the largest one made, but you can see the difference in the sizes of these pens. Also, we have some shaders here. This is a very small miniature shader, and this is a very large shader. So there's quite a variety, and Razor Tip even has over 900 pens and tips that they have available in a variety of ranges. So this is a skew, and in the solid point, here is the skew, and you see how white it is? On the wire tip, it's very, very thin, so look at the size of the line. I can get very detailed lines with this, and I can do feather barbs that are very close together. So because of the detail I can get in this, and it's so thin, what's happening is it's actually going down into the wood and cutting the wood while I'm burning. Whereas on this pen, once it gets on the wood, it's not going to cut down into the wood. One of the things that is different about going from a solid point burner to a wire tip burner is that knowing that you're down inside the wood, you cannot take this pen and go sideways with it. Sometimes when people buy the wire tip burners, they want to write their name with it, and they pick up this nice little sharp tool and they try to write their name with it. Well, this is a skew, and because it's down cutting into the wood, I cannot go sideways with it. Let me show you what happens when you try to. I'm going to stay shallow because I don't want to break my pen. But as I'm drawing this, if I wanted to do an O and I tried to move it over, it's got to skip out of that track. If I'm down too deep in the wood, it's actually going to bend and break this tip. So you want to make sure that if you've got a skew tip, that you either do straight lines with it or you can do curved lines with it, like this. You just twist it in your fingers, but that's why I have the rounded heel skew. On the writer tips, because you can get them so small, they're fine when you're going in the same direction as the wood grain, but watch what happens when I go across the wood grain. If you see this happening where it just kind of does a dotted line, or it's really splotchy or real bumpy, what's happening is if you look at my fingers and pretend that they're wood grain, and each one of these are hardwood grain, if I'm pushing my pen down and I'm pushing up against this hardwood grain, it's going to hesitate, and it's going to hesitate with each time before it releases. So that hard grain is stopping it from moving across this. All I have to do to change that is just lighten up my pressure and go straight across that. Just keep your pressure light and it won't do this. So another difference between the solid point burner and the wire tip burner is the heat. And because these get so hot, this is a 1 temperature burner, most of the pyrographers that use these have to wear a glove or some kind of protection for their hand because the heat that comes up from this is very extreme. And they don't get that hot. The only time they get hot is when you turn your temperature up to an extreme. But even so, most of the time you don't really feel the heat from these. And I never have to wear a glove when I'm burning with a wire tip burner, other than when I'm burning for long extended many hours at high heat, and then I might wear a glove. Information on wood burning and on coloring and finishes, wood selection, preparation, safety. I have a new book from Fox Chapel Publishing that is called the Quick Start Wood Burning Guide. And inside of it, it's got a lot of pictures and captions. It's very easy to read through, and it covers all the basics that you need to get started. Also, if you're interested in leather pyrography, burning on leather, I have another book that came out last year on leather pyrography. And it's just been translated into German. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy the extravaganza. And if you have any further questions, you can email me at the link below in the description.
So thank you to Michelle Parsons for allowing us to film her educational reference to wood burning and starting to wood burn. And if you have any other questions, by all means, send us an email at sales@woodworkingshop.com and we will forward it over to Michelle. That's not a problem. Or you can check out thepyrography.store.com.
And I'll tell you, we do a lot of woodworking, and we filmed a lot of woodworkers. And between the two of us, I mean, we do a lot of that. And I will say, she's by far you wouldn't know it by just looking at her, but man, she is just so full of knowledge, and she presents herself so well that it's no wonder that she's now world renowned as a pyrographer.
Yep. And you could tell by her voice that she was just tickled pink that her book was translated into German.
Did we ever get a copy of that for our owner?
No, I didn't, because at that time it had just gotten translated, and then I don't know if they ever shipped it out to America at that point. But yeah, that was because it was only available at a particular website in Germany for that particular one. So I don't know if they made it to where it could be distributed to other regions. But yeah, no, we can definitely look at that. I'm sure she's got at least a copy or two. Have her sign it and send it to him. That'd be cool.
Yeah, he'd like that.
Mm-hmm. So 25% off wood turning books, 20% off select abrasives, bandsaw blades are 10% off, Robert Sorby, Arbor Tech, Chromacraft finishes, Crown tools, Easy Wood tools and accessories, CA glues, and Raycon turning tools and accessories, all 10% off this weekend at woodworkingshop.com.
Or jump over there now and go check them out.
If you'd like to, you can always call us as well. Place your order. We'll ship it out first thing next week. But yeah, so that's one of the things that you can expect to see at our virtual extravaganza is films like that we have filmed with people who would normally be doing the demonstrations. So therefore you can get the way that I liked to look at those in particular, especially with Michelle, is that I've always found whenever she's teaching something, I've been to her classes because she's had them at our Hickory store. So I've been able to watch all the participants and how they interact with her. And one of the best places that a lot of people are is right over her shoulder. So that's why we decided to take the time to film it to where you had the best view of what she's trying to represent. And that is something that's going to set us apart from a lot of the other woodworking channels out there, is that we want you to have that right view to make it the easiest way to learn from the videos.
Yeah, for sure. And we've got all of the videos that we did for our extravaganza last year on the YouTube. And of course, anything you've missed here, you can also find it there as well. So if you missed anything from yesterday, you could go check that out and learn a little more about how to do an Ellsworth gouge from a standard gouge. You can also learn how to sharpen and hone, and use the trend tools to the sharpening tools to be able to hone those tools up. So a lot of good information that was presented yesterday. So if you are sitting here going, man, I missed you guys yesterday. Well, go check it out, YouTube. Everything was recorded. That way you have full access to all of yesterday's stuff.
And it'll be a little bit of time before we take 4 hours and turn it into chapters, but we will make it into chapters so that way you can just skip ahead to the parts that you liked. Also, a lot of these videos are already on our YouTube page, so therefore you can check them out at any time if you want just the specific video itself, and then save it for your playlist for therefore whatever the project is that you're working on. But definitely check out YouTube, Klingspor's Woodworking Shop. Look for the Abrasive and Proud of It logo. That'll let you know you're on the right page.
Well, and that's also something to talk about is, in the coming months, we will be kicking back up our live and some different product venues on our Facebook and other social media platforms. So if you, want to know little tips and tricks and product information, keep a lookout for that as well. So go join us on Facebook and like us and follow us, and do the same thing on YouTube. Or if you're more of an Instagram person, we're on there as well. So go check us out and click all those things where when you're notified when we do launch something new.
Absolutely. Abrasive and Proud of It live coming back this year.
But we're here at the AAW, all about wood turning and that stuff. So if you've got any questions, chat with us down below. Ask us either in the group chat over on the AAW site or here on Facebook and YouTube, and we'll be happy to answer those questions you may have. Doesn't always have to pertain to wood turning. Whatever you got, throw it at us, and if we don't know the answer, we're not going to just throw a bunch of baloney at you. We'll tell you we don't know, but we will get you an answer.
Yeah, that's right. We've got as you can tell just by some of the woodworkers that we're showing here today, we do have a vast network of intelligent experts in their field that we can ask questions to. And one benefit is that they are very generous with their time. They help us out a lot. When we send out questions, we get answers back. That gives us something to learn as well, because there might be things that we have no idea about in the world, and we learn at the same time you do. So it's a lot of fun for us. We get this opportunity to be that person who helps you and learn something at the same time.
Oh yeah.
So let's see here now. So we've done our spiel as far as the sales go. If you don't know, here's a banner for you. But let's take a look at, we've got the Ellsworth Grind. This was very popular from yesterday. Lots of questions on this one, lots of comments on this video in general on our YouTube page. But basically what we're going to do is we're going to take a regular bowl gouge and show you how you can make the Ellsworth Grind at home using just a bench grinder. And then we'll show you how to sharpen it using the Tormek. And Scott Caskey is very good in the way he describes things. He likes the Sharpie method, so therefore you don't have to buy a bunch of these jigs and angle guides. You can do it very simply by just using a Sharpie and testing your scratch on the actual wheel. Sorry, mine went blank there. So we'll go ahead and do that now, and that way you can take a look at Scott Caskey showing you how to make the Ellsworth Grind from Mr. David Ellsworth.
Do a little demo on how to take a English style bowl gouge and make it into a fingernail Ellsworth style grind on it. First I'm going to do one freehand on the bench grinder, and then we're going to go through one video with the Wolverine system showing you how to use the Wolverine jig, and then we'll also show how to use the Tormek and set it up so you can use whichever system you have to get the most optimal use out of your equipment. Start off with, I'm going to just kind of go over what a English grind is. This is the standard English grind. It is just basically the standard flute with a bevel on the top. This is typically how the English use their bowl gouges. In America, we tend to not like this very much because it does have a tendency to grab if you're roughing out and everything with it. But it does have one major advantage in this factor, or even with the ears just slightly pulled back, and that is in the bottom of a bowl. When you get deep into a bottom of a bowl with this bevel like this, and like it, you can get and clean up the bottom of a bowl a little bit better in this situation. But this is the general profile in which we like in America. It's mostly common, the Ellsworth grind, and it is very easily achieved and maintained once you kind of get the idea of how to do it. All right, this is the standard English grind on Flute, which is how the English typically make their bowl gouges. If you notice, it has a pretty much straight up and down ears on it. And in America, we tend to prefer an English or an Ellsworth style grind, which looks like this. You can see the difference where the ears are pulled back. It's much less for getting catches. It's more forgiving. It's also a more versatile tool. So what we will typically do is we'll remove the big shoulders up here and go back, sweep them back. There is an advantage to having an English bowl gouge in your toolkit is in the bottom of a bowl. If you've got a deep bowl, it's easier to get in the bottom and clean up the bottom, but you want to keep these ears away from the wood because it will make a nasty catch if you're not ready for it. The process in which we'll go from getting from this to this will consist of, first, we will take and grind those ears back. We'll just take it straight up against the grinding wheel like this and go down until we get it to the very tip and then have it swept back as far as we want for our ears for our English grind. After we do that, we will take and set our grinder up the right angle, which is this angle here is typically what I tend to use, which is around between 40 and 45 degrees. There's a lot of debate on which is the correct angle, somewhere in between there, but just pick something. Once you get used to it, you'll be happy with it. But once you get that plate set where you can set this down on and it makes contact with your wheel, like something like that, then we're ready to remove the excess off of here to get that English grind. What we're going to do now is, you see this one still has that hard flat surface on it, and this one's already been ground back. What we're going to do is take it and set it flat against the tool rest, and we're going to roll it into the wheel, like up here where my thumb's the wheel. We're going to keep it flat against the tool rest completely, and we're going to roll it over and in until we remove that stock. All this stock over here, what we're going to do is going to leave this fine little edge on the edge of this here and remove all this on this side over here. And this is what we're going to be left with. Have a container of water so you can keep your tool cool, so you don't take the temper out of the tool while you're cutting, because you're going to see me constantly quench to keep the tool cool. By the way, this is a slow speed grinder. It's 1800 RPM. Try not to use the high speed grinder because it gets too hot too quick, removes stock way too fast. So pretty much all wood turners, if you're using a grinder, recommend finding a lower speed grinder. To start off with, I'm just going to hold the tools up high on the tool rest. I'm going to come in, let both ears make contact, and I'm just going to work it down. And I'm telling you the truth, I'm not even positive which stone I'm on, if I'm on the coarse or the fine. It really doesn't matter for what I'm doing. I'm just grinding it back, and take a look and see I'm not all the way back, not all the way back to the point yet. So I still got some more to remove, but you see how the color is just changing on this tool, which is telling me I'm getting it hot. Anytime you get a tool hot, you do change the temper. So no longer than I've been on the grinder right now, I am changing the temper somewhat on the tool. So that's the reason why you want to constantly quench. And you see I'm getting closer. I'm starting to see sparks come across the front, which is telling me I'm getting really close. You can see I've got just a little dab left on the very top edge that's not shiny, which tells me I'm not at that front edge yet. I think I just saw some sparks, just did. Let's quench that. And you can start to see just a very faint shine across the top of it. Bench grinder. First I'm going to take a Sharpie and put black on the back side of this so I can check my angle. The other thing you want to do is go ahead and power the machine completely off and preferably unplug it. I'm going to leave it plugged in just for the sake of the video for speed, but I'm going to hold this down on this bench and I'm going to kick this angle up and move it until I get it pretty close, and I'm going to spin backwards and see how I'm hitting on the bottom side, so I need to tip it down a little bit, which also I'm going to need to come in some too, so just do that. And if you notice, this is not exactly the steadiest piece right here, which is fine. It's all good. It'll be close enough for what we're doing. And you see I'm starting to get a line go all the way across to the tip top. It's close enough for us to do what we're needing. Now, the key here is to keep this tight against this tool rest at all times. And what we're going to do is we're going to take and just work this one side down. And we're going to quench quite frequent in there so we don't can keep the temper in that tool from removing all the temper in it. You can see that little line gets smaller and smaller. And you can see it's getting closer, that this whole shoulder is disappearing, and we've still got this shoulder over here just like in that wooden demo model. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep on rolling it. And once we get it to that edge, you'll notice that there will be sparks coming across the top edge. You start seeing them now. It means we're really close to having it where we need to be. You can barely see a shiny line up there, which means there's just a little bit left to catch. I don't know if you can see it in the camera or not, but there's a real shiny line right where my thumbnail is. That means we're just got a little flat spot up there. So we're almost there on that. All right, now we have our basic grind. And we can go back and touch up once we get it closer, but get the other side. We're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. I'm going to move this out of the way. Now we've got our rough fingernail grind. You can see the grind marks in here are not real even and smooth, which is one major advantage to having a jig do it. But now that we've got this, you also notice I've got a pretty heavy point on the front. So now I'm going to go back and clean up and kind of sweep it all the way around to round my point back out like we would normally have in our normal grind. So we're going to just kind of swing. It's easier to do one side than the other than come back up and clean up that point. The key to this is keep your nose or the tool tight to the tool rest. Now you can see that sharp point is now gone off the front of it, which is what you're wanting. I'm going to make a few final good cleaning passes and see if I can clean up some of those grind marks. That's how you take a standard English grind to a bowl gouge, an English or a more of an Ellsworth grind, freehand. And if you can see, we got all sorts of little waves and stuff in the surface, and we do have a little discoloration, but that was because we were heating it up pretty good. So that means those are tempers slightly off where you see the major color changes, but it should not be enough to make a big difference in the tool. Next, we'll show using a Wolverine jig how to do the same type of profile, and then we'll also go over with the Tormek. So look out for those videos as well.
All right, and so up next will be the Tormek sharpening video to show how to get those ridges out of that tool. Here we are.
to get it into shape, which is the preferred method if you're using a Tormek, because if not, you'll spend a lot of time on it. Not to say you can't do it with it, it's just there's much more efficient ways to shape a bowl gouge. Start off with, I've got an older Tormek here. It's the older T7, the blue one. I've got some of the green ones at home. They're all good machines. This one here happens to have a diamond wheel on it. They just came out these, I guess, a year or so ago. There's a major advantage to having the diamond wheels. This is the coarse one, which is good for most of our wood turning tools. But if you want to do other finer things like planer blades and everything else, you may want to go to the fine diamond wheel. The standard wheels will work as well for any of these, for any of your turning needs as well, but this here has one advantage. So once you set your bar, if you're mainly doing bowl gouges, you never have to move it once you got it set, because you'll never wear your wheel down. It's always consistent, always go back and just a light touch up and you're done. It's very quick. They've come out with a new jig for doing bowl gouges. This is the older version, which has been around forever. You can see it's got the brass piece in it, and it also has a nylon piece that can go up for larger gouges, but some of your smaller ones you got to take it off, so I don't have it on this one. This one you don't have to worry about that because it's slotted through and it'll go all the way down to the bottom. So they made a major improvement on their bowl gouge jig. So if you've got the Tormek system from a while back, you may still want to look into this. I find it to be much more convenient than the older version, which I've used for years. I do like this new jig. Similar to the doing it by hand or even using the Wolverine system, you've got to set your angle of approach for the stone and the angle that you want on the front edge of your bowl gouge. This is the angle I'm talking about right here. It's right on the front edge. It's where it comes in contact right here. And that has to do with this angle that you set on here. Most time it's close to a negative 45 degrees. And once you set it, it's like the Ron Pill coach, set it and forget it. Just set your angle and go with it. Just like with the other bowl gouge jigs, you basically slide your gouge in it. And the other key is have a depth stop. This is set for 2 inches. So set it down, push it up against it, and lock her in place. And this way you're repeatable every time you go back to it. And good thing if you're at home or whatever, mount your block with it mounted to it. That way it stays with the machine and you're always there. The next thing you want to do is take a Sharpie. This one's kind of dirty already because it's been used. I'm going to blacken the bottom of it. And since I'm using a different block, even though this is one I use on my bench at home, it's probably going to be awful hair. You want to spin it backwards and take a look at it. Actually, that block is almost identical at home, so you see a nice shiny mark. If it wasn't, you can slide this in and out to get that mark to go even with it. So now that you've done that, we turn the machine on. It's a simple, quick, couple passes back and forth, and it is slightly off, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. You see how shiny bright it is at the top? That's where it's made contact. So technically, I'm good to go right now because it's shiny at the top, not at the bottom. So I could actually stop right there and go with it, but if I want it shiny all the way through, put it, and it's doing it quickly, even because I've got the coarse stone on it right now. And it said for wood turning tools, the coarse stone is fine. Or the other thing about the diamond wheels on this, if you'll see people putting aftermarket CBN wheels on here, but you notice I'm running water. There's one major advantage to running water. It helps keep the diamond clean. It also keeps that dust down. It keeps it trapped in the bottom so you don't get that dust in there to breathe. But the other kicker with it is they recommend you use to put a little dab of this oil soap solution inside the in the water to help keep the stone clean. So once you've sharpened and got your edge cleaned up all the way down, if you want it a little finer, then you can actually come over to the leather strop on the other side, take your honing paste and and put a little bit of honing paste on it. Your honing paste, put it on your finger, rub it on it, and take it and roll it in until it sits flat and just kind of roll it. I'm not going to do both sides. I'm going to so you can see the difference in honing and non-honing. All right. Now, if you look how polished this side looks compared to that, you got your lines in it that aren't polished at all, and then this side you can see the polished lines. So this side is definitely much more refined, much finer edge. If you're making a fine cut, finish cut on certain woods, you may want to do this. It's rare that you need to, but on some woods you can do that and get that little bit better cut that makes sanding a little bit easier.
All right. So we had a question pop up while we were showing that, and that is Steve Smith would like to know, question for you guys on roughing gouges. The metal is the only difference, right? High-end metal worth it for roughing and shaping? Is the difference just time between sharpening? So when it comes down to the roughing gouge, you also have to keep in mind the way that the tang or the actual tool steel itself is inserted into the handle. Because when you're doing roughing, you're doing a lot of actual pressure on the end where the cutting is done. So therefore, it does matter when you go to a higher end tool. It is made for that long-term abuse that it's going to be under. A cheaper tool is not going to be done that way. And typically you're going to have broken handles or it's just going to come apart on you. So that is something that is a difference between the higher end and just a cheaper version of that or a less expensive version. Metal-wise, though, that's when you started getting into other things. Yes, the metal, when it's a high-speed steel, for instance, it will hold its edge longer. So therefore, it's not just so much in between sharpenings that saves you time, but also because it's sharp and holds that edge longer, you have less likely of trying to elbow grease or trying to push the tool into the workpiece when it starts to dull, which then becomes a dangerous practice on the turner side of it, because then as you're trying to push in harder because it's not cutting as quickly as it was, you can then get a catch and then things can happen. What do you think, Chris? You're muted, by the way, bud.
I hit it. I guess. Sorry about that. I hit it, but it didn't unmute. One thing you'll note about roughing gouges is the profile is different than bowl gouges or spindle gouges. I mean, it has a much more steep U shape to it, and that is designed for that exact purpose. It's designed for roughing out heavier materials. And so, yeah, there are differences in metal, but that's typically across different manufacturers. Cheaper grade tools are going to be made of a cheaper grade steel. That's one of the reasons why we really heavily push the Crown and Sorby line, because they are made of a higher quality metal in general. But the main difference between roughing and other gouges is it's going to be that shape.
And then you have other tools on the market that we do not carry, and a lot of them are because they don't have a wholesale program or they don't have anyone else. They just want to sell direct to the customer. So therefore, with those tools, there are differences as well. Usually they're about the handle and how it's constructed to accept the tool. Like they're interchangeable, such as like our Rikon that we have that's on sale. It is an interchangeable toolbar with the handle, one handle. So there's a lot out there that do that, but really it comes down to the type of steel that it is, as well as how it's constructed into the handle, all make a difference as far as less expensive, requires less time to create and manufacture, therefore it's cheaper. But at the same time, yeah, and keeping it sharp longer is definitely going to give you much better turning experience in the long run. So let's see here. You want to go over our sales there, Chris? I'm going to find another video because we got quite a few here and see if I have anything that's not from yesterday. Now, of course, we always have the Jerry video, which is a very good video. And we can at least start it and stop it. The only other one we have left is the Paul Roth video of the Arbor Tech line. But let's take a look at our savings.
And of course, this weekend we've got 25% off all books, 20% off most of our abrasives, 10% off Crown and Easy Wood and Sorby tools, as well as Rikon, and much more. So don't forget to check that out. And if you notice on the website, if you're on there browsing, you'll be able to note that it is actually discounted, because it'll have a slash through the price and it'll be a sale price beside that.
All right. Yeah. And it'll be in the cart is where you'll see that price. It will not be shown on the regular website, just in the cart.
Oh, that's right. That's right. For this weekend, that got changed. So you'll notice it when you get there.
Yep. Let's see. Ooh, we can do this one. Let me stop it real quick. Oh, I removed you instead. My bad.
Feel free.
And we'll do this one. Okay, so I've got two videos set up here. Just something that was different from yesterday. And let's see here. I'm going to do one more while we are waiting. Oh, let me do the
if the Paul Roth video is on there. Now, this is an interesting video. Paul is not actually turning on a lathe, but the concepts that he's talking about can be easily transferred over to people who are doing a lot of wood turning, because you can incorporate both your traditional wood turning with lathe tools as well as the power carving aspect of it. And there's a lot of that medium being done. And so this is a really good video to kind of get an idea of how you can take just a traditional wood bowl type setup and incorporate that into more power carving techniques. And these can be applied very easily in a lathe application. So,
yep, absolutely. So we'll take a look at that now. This is Mr. Paul Roth, Master Carver, showing you how you can use Arbor Tech tools to make the best out of your project.
Klingspor's Woodworking Shop live extravaganza demonstrations. My name is Paul Roth. I will be your demonstrator today. I have been carving for over 40 years. I was trained as a traditional wood carver, meaning that I use 90% of the time I'm using gouges driven by mallets or by hand. And most of it is all hand work done by kind of a European style carving. Just recently finished a commission for a crucifix, so that type of work that I'm normally doing. But today I'm going to be demonstrating using power tools. And so you're wondering why a traditional wood carpenter has been using power tools, but the answer is really simple. To save time. Power tools remove a lot of waste when you're trying to produce something quickly and efficiently. Power tools are the thing to turn to because they will give you a quick result. The only danger that because you're removing wood so quickly, you can also move too much wood quickly, and before you know it, you've made a mistake and taken off so much wood. So you need to feel comfortable about where you're going, where the end result lies, so that you can learn to pull back and stop. And then the work that I'll be doing today is mostly with the power tools, just to remove the waste off of this project. Then we will or later I will go in with the hand tools and refine the shapes and further define and get the finished texture on. The power tools will not be leaving a finished texture that I'm after. They could, in some projects, leave that texture that you want, but in my case, this one will have to be finished up with hand tools. So the tools that I'm going to be using today are made by Arbor Tech. The power tools are driven in angle grinders, such as this, 4.5-inch angle grinders. There's 3 different ones that I'll be using today. The first one I ever had is the industrial wood carver. It is a round disc with 3 carbide teeth around the perimeter of the edge of the blade. The thing I like about this tool over other type of grinding tools most of the times is that these carbide teeth actually cut the wood. They leave behind a carved texture rather than an abraded texture. So the finishing process is a lot easier to do, to clean up after what the power tools do. These carbide teeth that are on the disc, once you use them for a while, they can actually be loosened and rotated to expose a fresh, sharp edge, and you tighten them back up and you get right back to work. You don't have to replace them. Eventually, you will need to replace them. But this industrial wood carver does a couple of things. Number one, it will cut straight down into the wood and remove wood quickly into a groove type of thing. Or you can lay it on its side and remove as much or as little bit of wood as you want. It'll take tiny shavings or thin shavings off, or it'll go down deeper and remove a lot of wood off the surface as well. If you want to remove more wood off the surface, the tool that you would use instead is a turboplane. This also has 3 carbide teeth, but they are long-edged cutters in the disc that spin around, and it's designed to remove a lot of wood quickly from the surface of the wood that you're carving on. The third tool that I'll be demonstrating is called the ball gouge. I don't have that mounted on there, but eventually I will mount it. It's a spherical tool with a ring of carbide around it. This tool is great for going in and doing contours in hollow areas. This is a project that was completed a couple of years ago using the Arbor Tech tools to rough it out. Both the industrial wood carver and the turboplane were used to give the rough shaping. The ball gouge was used to come in and find the details between the shapes between here. It also was able to come up in between the arms of the figure and clean this area out in here. So doing this by hand, this is all ingrained into this walnut, doing this by hand would have taken much more time. The ball gouge was made quick work of taking that out. The project that I'm working on today is out of butternut, and it's a 4-inch thick piece of butternut that will eventually become a hat and coat rack. You can see what it is it's a hatchet that this is the trunk of a tree, a branch coming off that tree and another branch coming off that then morphs into the handle of the hatchet, and then the head of the hatchet, the tip of it goes back into the trunk again, so it completes the circle around. The hatchet that I'm using as a model is this hatchet here. I just like the shape and the sculptural aspects that this hatchet has. The thing I don't like about it is the straight handle. So instead I have had a curved handle for the hatchet rather than the straight one, just to give it a little bit more shape. The first thing I'm going to do, and what I've done is marked off the blank. First it was sawn out on the bandsaw and the inside, then I drilled holes through the center here. It allowed me to get a long 6-inch jigsaw blade and cut out, remove the waste from the inside in here. So the first thing I'm going to do is, obviously all of this material out here is all waste. I have marked it off roughly just so you can kind of see what the shape of it is going to be. This is the tip of the hatchet coming into the trunk of the tree, and the hammerhead protruding up here. Here's where you'll be able to hang a hat, and on the branch that comes out you'll be able to hang a coat from it. So the first step is to define, I'm going to make a cut with the industrial wood carver into here and into here to separate this wood from what will be the trunk, and then I'll use the turboplane to remove most of the bulk of that material out there. One thing about power carving, especially when you're working with removing a lot of waste, is that you generate a lot of waste, and so expect to make a lot of waste. So you'll have need to keep your area clean, but also protect yourself with different, number one, I wear a respirator, and then over top of the respirator I have a face shield to keep the debris from coming into my eyes or face. The last thing I wear is, because these cutters produce chips rather than sawdust, and they come off that wood surface at a very high velocity, so they'll be constantly coming back onto my arms. So I have some nice long gloves here that I'll wear over my arms to protect my hands and wrists and the lower part of my arms from that flying debris. So get the safety gear in place. Start with the mask. I love these. This is an Eclipse mask, great for dust protection. I like it because it's a small profile, doesn't have the big canisters hanging out the side. Fits on snugly. And then the face shield. eventually, when I get down to the details, if I need to wear my glasses, I can feel like I can still put my glasses on underneath of the face shield. But the first cut will be made with the industrial wood carver. And what I'm going to do is cut straight down in here. We're just going to look this way.
And so the sound is not on for this particular part. We just sped it up because during the extravaganza, we were talking over it. And thus we didn't add anything extra to it at the time. So we do apologize. But you haven't lost any sound at all. Here we just have Paul using his ball gouge from Arbor Tech. And remember, this is the one that works at a 45-degree angle. It does not work straight down at a 90. So you almost have to get a little creative sometimes. But when you're doing those inside of recessed areas, it works like a champ, especially inside of a vessel, or if you have to get detail underneath something of a bowl. These are great options as well.
Yeah, and you can see that how easily that would be used, incorporated into some of the more artistic bowls and platters and things that some of you folks are doing today.
Absolutely. So if you want to give yourself a little something different where you can do off-axis turning, and then you want to carve it to go along with it to make it something to where people cannot figure out exactly how you did it, this is one of the ways to go about it. That ball gouge now has a smaller baby brother, if you will. It is the Precision Mini Gouge, and it's very similar, but is a lot smaller. I think that one in particular is probably, 3/4 of an inch in diameter, and the smaller one is like 1/4 of an inch to 3/8, so it's a lot better.
Okay, all right, this next session, we're going to carve out the bowl of a spoon. There's lots of different ways to carve spoons. And the determining factor which method you use depends a lot on the kind of wood that you're using. If you're using a knife, for instance, it's best to have either softwoods or a green wood so that they can be carved well with the knife, with the hand strength. With hardwoods, I generally prefer to use a gouge and a mallet to carve out the bowl of the spoon, and it goes very, very quickly with that. The only limitation to that is that I have to have a workbench. If you're carving a spoon with a knife, with a curved knife, you can do it anywhere. You can hold the spoon in your lap and you can do it right wherever you happen to be sitting. Whereas I'm pretty much tied down to a workbench because I have to have a hand on the two hands are occupied. One is driving the mallet into the gouge, and so that the spoon has to be tied down. The third way of carving is with power. Now this is Bubinga, this spoon. I would not want to carve this spoon with a knife. In fact, I would be very surprised if someone could go all the way through carving a Bubinga spoon with a knife. My hat would be off to them for sure, and their sore hands in the process. Even with a gouge, it could certainly be done with a gouge a whole lot better and a lot faster, but it's still tough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Arbor Tech ball gouge to carve out the bowl of the spoon. It's going to go very quickly. The nice thing about the ball gouge, particularly on a hardwood like this, is it's going to leave a carved texture, which I can leave just as it is by itself without having to do any sanding or extra polishing or touching up or so forth. So putting the spoon blank into the vise, leaving it up just a little bit. Going to do this inside of the bowl with the ball gouge. The ball gouge has a carbide ring around it that spins around and carves in a nice contoured shapes. Just recently rotated that ring, so hopefully I have a nice edge on there. Okay. Due to the rotation of the ball gouge, I want to make sure that it rotates downhill so I don't lift any fibers, and particularly lift up the wood on the rim of the spoon. So if it's rotating this way, then it's cutting downhill on the rim here, but it's carving up here, and so I run the risk of breaking a splinter also. Simply to avoid that, I just turn it around and come from the other direction. Also want to frequently check the depth of how deep we're going so we don't come through the bottom of the spoon. All right. This next project is a manzanita root burl slab. Manzanita grows out on the western part of the country. The tree itself is protected, but you can go in and harvest, if you have a permit, go in and harvest the roots and the stuff that is from dead trees. So the manzanita, the roots have this burl pattern on them and just gorgeous color to them. When you finish them, the color really comes out. But being a root burl, sometimes you get surprises inside of them. This particular one is pretty solid. There may be bark inclusions or places where bugs have got into them. Or what I'm going to do with this flat slab, after I did actually flatten it and I've sanded it up through grits up to used the Klingspor fusion pad up to like 3200 grit. So it's a very, very shiny, very fine surface here. I want to carve out two small bowl depressions in this. Now, this manzanita is pretty hard. It's a very hard, dense wood to work with, but it's well worth the effort to doing it. So I'm going to carve two little bowls in it, just to put whatever someone wants to put on them. So this will be a larger, deeper bowl here, and this one here, there's a small spot when I get into it, but I'm going to carve it anyway. If it's something that I find objectionable, and then I might be just it'll be an opportunity to enhance it with epoxy, with a filler or color of some sort. So I'm going to use, again, using the ball gouge on this. And I have this clamped to this backer board here so that I don't have to worry about putting clamps on the piece itself as I'm working on it, so it's secured as I go. Okay. carved out the bowl of this Bubinga spoon with the Arbor Tech ball gouge. Now we're going to shape the outside of the spoon a little bit.
So that was Paul Rolfe demonstrating both the industrial power carver, the industrial blade, the planer blade, and then the ball gouge, all from Arbor Tech.
Yeah, that's a really good lineup, and most of the time, all it requires is an angle grinder, and that works out pretty well.
Yep, absolutely. So Mike Davis did have a good comment there. It does look extremely dangerous. A lot of times in that case, when using an angle grinder, it is dangerous. But at the same time, with the ball gouge, it doesn't grab like other power carving accessories does, because that particular cutting ring, if you will, is a ring instead of just sitting on the end of the tool. And so it always has a sheer cut to it. So there's really very little grab to it. There's very little exposure of that ring as well, because it's inset inside of the ball. So it really makes it to be more of a safer, easier to use power carving accessory. I know at one symposium that we did, I think Scott had he had a much older lady who was, you know, like a grandma, and she was power carving with that thing, and she was really impressed with how, like, if you put it 90 degrees down on the surface, it didn't grab, it didn't do anything, it just sat there, because the ball itself is sitting with no cutter on the very bottom. So once you tilt it, that's when it starts to cut. And she was really impressed with how easy it was to use. And she probably, be honest with you, I mean, she was very frail to where it didn't look like she could handle an angle grinder. And it was really impressive with watching her be able to do that. And we never got video of it because it was before we thought about videos, but it was one of those experiences where you're like, yes, that is that easy to use. So
Well,
that helps.
and unlike a chainsaw that's removing a tremendous amount of material at a time, this is doing very minimal removal. And, you know, it's still more than you would get by doing, you know, traditional mallet or hand tool chiseling. But at the same time, it's removing just a little bit, so it's not going to catch and run on you like a normal blade wood. So it is much safer, even though it looked dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll bring up a picture of that actual ball gouge. Now, like with the chainsaw, you have a very big gullet behind it, so you can have much bigger actual chips. And with the ball gouge and with a lot of the Arbor Tech accessories, they are running on circular carbide cutters, very similar to turning tools. And with that said, you have a smaller gullet area, so you get better chips that are ejected rather than big chunks of wood. And that's where the catching doesn't seem to be as big of a deal.
Yep.
Good afternoon, Mr. Caskey. Thank you for joining us today, sir.
Yeah, you just missed your encore presentation.
Yeah, he already did. I told him we were doing it. He said he was busy with other things. So I said,
whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
But, just imagine you've got a really smooth interior bowl, like a traditional bowl would, but instead of the outside being smooth as well, imagine some sort of Viking carving or Aztec looking carving on the outside of the bowl as part of the feature. So this really does take traditional turning to the next level and enable you to do, a little more intricate carving and detail on the outside and leave your insides, more traditional smooth. So it makes a very unique bowl that on the lathe, otherwise you'd not be able to do. So,
yeah, very true. And let me see here. Don't really have a good image of the industrial carver he was using, but I do have the mini turbo, which is a very similar principle to it. And just kind of give you an idea of what we're looking at here when we say the small carbide cutters. So we showed you the ball gouge, and you can see that if you were to put it directly on the wood at a 90-degree angle, it's just sitting on that darker holding nut that holds the carbide cutter in place. So you're not doing any cutting until you tilt it. And when you tilt it, that's when it's on a shear angle the whole time. Cutting is very easy done. So the mini turbo is about the same size as that the ball gouge itself, but as you can see, it has small insert carbide cutters, and there is less area for catching to occur because of the way they designed the gullet around that. So therefore, the industrial carver is very similar as far as its makeup of it, but the picture we have wasn't as good as I would like it to be. So, but here you can kind of tell and get an idea of what it would do.
Yeah, the only key thing is remember what Paul said about keeping your grain oriented the proper way. And that way, it does limit a lot of the chip out. So very cool little tool. Great addition if you're looking to take a traditional turning and just step your game up just a little bit. And, almost in line, you could even do some fluting. I know a lot of that can be done on the lathe using certain tools, but they look very repetitive and they look like they were done that way. This tool could allow you to do some of that fluting and make it look a little more rustic and a little more random. So very cool little options if you decided to throw that into your mix to sort of set you above everyone else.
That's right. And 10% off until Wednesday on all Arbor Tech products, easy wood tools and cutters, crown tools, including their M42 and original cryogenic steels. And we also have 25% off on all turning books, 20% off on select abrasives, which are 1.5, 1 inch, 2 inch, and 3 inch discs, both standard and scalloped, which is that little wavy edge. Great for bowls. And then we also have 10% off bandsaw blades, Robert Sorby, Chromacraft finishes, CA glues, Rikon turning tools, and much more. So stop by woodworkingshop.com to get a hold of these sales, and for a limited time, which now we've made it till the end of the month, you can get free shipping by using FS July 21, free standard shipping anywhere in the country.
Yeah, don't tell our boss you heard it here at the AAW, because he'll be thinking, man, you gave him great deals and free shipping. What's wrong with you? Well, what's wrong with us is we're all about you. So we're trying to give you the deals and let you take advantage of it.
That's right. It's Sunday and he's not paying attention. So let's get the deals going now. If you would like to send a complaint email about getting free shipping to our boss, please send it to sales@woodworkingshop.com. So therefore you can let them know that, hey, these guys gave me free shipping. I want to complain about it.
That's right. Complain away.
The Arbor
He's
Tech,
used to having in his inbox flooded with complaints about us anyway. So
absolutely. Yep, is a more refined tool compared to chainsaw heads. That's really the best way to describe it, is a refined tool. Nothing wrong with the chainsaw heads, as we do have representatives from other carving companies watching. They have made a comment on another channel. But yes, nothing wrong with the carving heads for chainsaws, but the Arbor Tech is a little bit more refined. If you're a beginner power carver looking to get into it, I have to say that might be a good way to go. And by all means, not sponsored. So don't forget, you can shop us at 800-228-0000 or woodworkingshop.com. Besides just being a fantastic resource for woodworking related topics, from turning, carving, burning, horseshoeing, whatever you seem to be doing, or cornholing, don't forget that we also sell one of the world's best abrasives, Klingspor abrasives. Hey, you know what? Let's talk about the extravaganza for a minute. We hadn't said enough about it. We made a video on it, all the past extravaganzas. Literally don't remember how long this one is, but the extravaganza has been going on for 20 plus years. And this year we're doing it virtual, but we're also doing it at all 4 store locations. That would be October 2nd, 6th, 9th. 2nd, 9th, 16th, and 23rd. Each store in North Carolina, Cary, Asheville, Winston-Salem, and Hickory will have their own in-store extravaganza specials for that Saturday. Visit us at woodworkingextravaganza.com to learn more, and then please join us for the 18th through the 23rd, 6 full days of craziness, videos, woodworking related, and so much more. Special guests are also coming, and lots happening. So don't forget to check out woodworkingextravaganza.com. But we do have a video to show you how it all started, and that is coming up now. Chris, anything you'd like to say about the extravaganza before I get started?
if you think the AAW is good, this will have a lot of turners as well. So it's worth a join over, plus a few other things. And we're just happy that we can be a part of both of these shows.
Absolutely. And Scott also likes to bring up apple turning, because that's one of the things that gets the messiest of the extravaganza, is that we offer free apples, free parking, free admission for our woodworking show. Since we're putting it on, we take care of everything for you. You just come and have a good time. But whenever things get a little crazy with Scott in the turning booth, he likes to turn apples and the juice flies.
And he means real apples.
Yes.
Not a wooden apple that's been turned. He turns real apples.
Real apples. Yeah.
In booth apple juice at your service.
That's right. And when it gets mixed up with wood chips from all the pin turning and bowl turning they're doing in the booth, it is a sloppy mess to clean up after the show. We don't know anything about that.
Mm-mm.
All right. So let's check out where it all began with the woodworking extravaganza.
of the centipede. Everybody, let's give Izzy a huge round of applause for his amazing creation.
Oh yeah.
So that was a little rundown of the past 20 years of Klingspor's Woodworking Shop Woodworking Extravaganza. What it looks like to step on into our Hickory Metro Convention Center and have yourself a great time, which won't be this year. It'll be next year. All goes well.
I remember the first one. Just, man, seems like forever ago.
It's when you had hair too.
I was much less of a man too.
Oh, by that you mean weight? Is that a fact?
Absolutely,
Oh,
absolutely.
yeah. Yep. So Scott has been with the company for roughly 20 years? No, sorry, Scott. Chris. I was just looking at his name. My apologies.
That's all right.
Yeah,
Scott's been part of the company for much longer than I have. Yeah,
true.
Yeah, it started in 2001, so it's been a long journey, and that we've learned a lot over the years for that extravaganza.
Lots of things have changed as well, but those are a lot of the brands that we know and trust, and then that's kind of why we sell them, is because we know them and trust them. But yeah, there's all kinds of vendors that come for those shows, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, thankfully the consumer doesn't have to know all the back end side of that. They don't get to experience the preparation and then the cleanup. They just get to show up, enjoy it, and walk away with a good experience. And in some cases, if you notice some of those pictures over the years, we've given away some really good stuff at the show. A couple of years, we've given away full shops, complete shops with all full equipment. 1 year, a grand prize was a truck. So there's been some really good giveaways throughout the years, and customers walk away pretty happy.
Yeah, it was kind of confusing in one of them because when I was reading it, that's why I went through the old files and found all of the original posters, and one of them was like, I think 2003, which would have been the third extravaganza. And the issue was, it said 15-year win a truck. And that means that at that time, the woodworking shop was 15 years old. So now it's over 30 years old. So Klingspor's Woodworking Shop is maybe a name that you aren't familiar with every day, but we have been around for over 30 years. So it's a company that's definitely here to stay, not a fly by night, with the backing of 125 year abrasive company means that you're going to get quality every time as well as service. But yes, we give away a truck for 15 years and for 30 years, full shop, a saw stop saw, lots of grand prizes. I saw one of them was Stock the Shop. I think that was 2005s, but so lots of giveaways.
Yeah, so we like to have a good time at that show, and I think most of the manufacturers that come really enjoy it. They enjoy that interaction. It's a very low stress, where they don't feel like they're pressured to sell, and which they like the fact they can just have nice general conversations with folks instead of being, feel like they have to be in sales mode all the time, and customers hate that anyway. So they enjoy that interaction with the sales reps, being able to ask questions and get feedback. And the beauty is most all the major brands are there. So, you can go around and kind of check everything out live, get your hands on things. And that was part of the reason why we opted to hold off on this year due to everything that we've gone through as a world the last year and a half. Supply chain issues, as well as still some concern about some other things. So this year we're thinking more about you guys, and that's one of the reasons that it went virtual again this year. But it's going to be a much better option this year, more things that you can be able to see online, more interactive, and you'll still be able to contribute and get to talk and chat around with us, and we can certainly reach out to vendors if you've got questions about products if we can't answer them. So still gonna have plenty of room for you guys. Hope you join us.
Absolutely. So woodworkingextravaganza.com is Klingspor's Woodworking Extravaganza. October 18th through the 23rd. If you are in North Carolina, any weekend in October, that would be the 2nd, the 9th, and the 16th, and the 23rd. all of those weekends, each one of our 4 retail locations throughout North Carolina will have some sort of special dedicated to their store with vendors, live demonstrations, wood clubs, you name it. Everything will be happening there on the store level.
And I will say this: if you're from out of state, you're not local. We had people attend the show from all around the country, and end of October is the perfect time of year to come visit North Carolina, especially if you're in the Asheville or Hickory area. Those are great times because the leaves are changing and the mountains of North Carolina are just absolutely beautiful. So definitely make time for that, and just don't make time to come to the show, but make time to stay a little while and go visit the mountains. And from the Hickory store, you can be in the mountains in no time. If you're at the Asheville store, well, you're already in the mountains. So just come and enjoy those leaves, enjoy the scenery, enjoy the atmosphere, because Asheville is a great place to visit. A lot of history there. And of course, all of the North Carolina stores are available any time of the year, but that time of year especially is really good because of the fall colors start to really show themselves.
Absolutely. So you can't go wrong with taking a well-deserved trip to North Carolina in the foothills for a nice vacation time. Make sure that we have had people from Australia. We've had people from England who have attended the woodworking extravaganza, and come on through to the club booth. Definitely don't forget that if you are looking for something to do, find Scott Caskey and you can hide with him behind the lathe and learn to turn. If you didn't join us yesterday, Scott was our guest, and he's been a helper of Klingspor's Woodworking Shop for years. So therefore we, just come to know him just like I know Chris, it's like a colleague. You just come to know him for many years. So it's good times to be had by all. So if you stop by any one of our 4 retail locations, we take the pride in making sure that the people who are behind the counter are woodworkers just like you. They're not just going to be someone there who's just to ring somebody out. They're going to be people who are passionate about some sort of field of woodworking. For instance, in our Asheville store, we have the Mr. Jack. He is great at all things. I would say he's a master carpenter by far. He will never tell you that, but you ask him a question about almost any topic and he has an opinion. He's done it. He's something along those lines. Well, he has gone as far as upping his finishing game by using a turbine sprayer. And so for our extravaganza last year, he came in to actually do an unboxing video and then talk about Fuji, because he went to Fuji school, which is something that you can do at fujispray.com. You can go to one of their schools that are in Canada, but Jack took the time to be able to do that. And he learned many things that I had no clue were even available from Fuji. So then I learned something, which is what I like about this job, is that we're always learning something new, and then we get to share it with you, the viewers at home.
Yeah, it's always fun to learn it, test it, prove it, and then teach it.
That's right. Absolutely. So without further ado, we're going to check out Mr. Jack Hastings as he talks about Fuji spray systems.
Jack Hastings and I work in the Asheville store at Klingspor's Woodworking Shop off Airport Road on the south side of Asheville. Today I'm here to talk about helping you select what kind of a spray gun or spray equipment you might want to use for your particular application. I started spraying about 35 years ago. I spray mostly lacquers, high gloss lacquers principally, unless I'm doing furniture, and then I'll use a lower sheen lacquer. And for the first 15 years, I used a big, huge compressor. And on that compressor, I had a dehydrator in the line and dust filters in the line, because as most of you know, a compressor generates water. And if you've ever drained the bottom of your tank, you know it can generate a lot of humidity. If you've never drained the bottom of the tank, you probably ought to unscrew that and take a look at it. About 15 years ago, I switched to HVLP, which stands for high volume, low pressure. The high volume, low pressure has nothing to do with what you're spraying. High volume, low pressure refers to the air that the gun and the system are using. HVLP was developed in the 50s, ironically by the Kirby vacuum cleaner company. If you bought their most expensive vacuum, it came with a hose and a little glass jar and a spray gun. So you would take the bag off of your vacuum cleaner and plug this hose in there. So essentially we're working on the backside of a vacuum cleaner fan. And that's all HVLP systems are now. So when you see an HVLP system, Erlex and some of the real simple ones have one vacuum cleaner fan running backwards. Today we're going to be looking at a 2 series from Fuji that has 2 fans. The 3 series has 3 fans. The 4 series has 4 fans, and so on. The 5 series has 5. It's identical equipment to what's in your vacuum cleaner, and it always has been. Fuji has been in that business for about 12 to 15 years. Interestingly, they got started with spray tan equipment. The difference, just as the big picture, when you use a compressor, it atomizes your fluid, whether it's a water-based, oil-based, into very, very tiny droplets and sprays them out of the gun at high pressure. The result of that is you lose about 70% of what you're spraying doesn't stay where you're spraying it. And if you've ever been in an auto body shop or any shop where they use a high compressor, high pressure spray system, you'll notice there's spray all over the place. And if you've ever smelled one, you realize how much is not staying on the piece of furniture or whatever it is. You can get an HVLP gun that will work on a traditional compressor. The only downside is you need a big compressor because it's using a massive amount of air. So again, the HVLP was developed from the vacuum cleaner business. This is Fuji Spray's 2-fan system. And by the way, during the extravaganza, this is going to be one of the door prizes available for our customers. One of the great things about Fuji is right on top of the box is their 800 number. And when you dial their 800 number, you go right to their people, and they can troubleshoot almost any problem. Their customer service is just tremendous. They're in Toronto, but the good news is they ship everything from New York, so you don't have to worry about time delays coming. So when you get this box, the biggest thing to remember is you can take this home and start spraying almost instantly. There's nothing else you need besides what's in this box. So this is their hose. It's 25 feet long and it's very rigid. That's why one of their most popular options is a lightweight hose to use on the last 6 feet. But you don't have to do that. You can go right home and spray with what's in the box. Then they have a gun, and I believe that this one is what was traditionally called a siphon gun, which means the tank is on the bottom of the gun. It's really kind of a misnomer now, because I will show you here that a lot of auto body people always used gravity guns with the cylinder or the canister on top. And the thought was that you're not wasting any of your air creating a siphon to suck the fluid out of the bottom of the tank. Well, the way modern guns have taken care of that problem, Fuji and most other manufacturers put a pressure hose which takes some air coming from your turbine, which generates the power, and blows in and pressurizes the cup on the bottom. So it's actually forcing the liquid up, not having to suction it up. The real thing to remember as you start spraying is that 90% of the problems while you're spraying are because your gun wasn't clean. So cleaning your gun is absolutely fundamentally important. So as I talked earlier, with a compressor system, you're blowing moist, essentially cold air. So you always have to deal with that. If you're using waterborne finishes, it's not quite as bad. But if you're using lacquers, you can have all kinds of problems. And it all comes in the package. It blows warm, dry air. The Semi Pro 2, which has 2 fans in it, I know of a number of cabinet shops that just use the two. So when you get ready to spray, the thing you need to know is that on these guns, the real difference in an HVLP gun is the size of these holes. And those holes are larger than they would be on a conventional compressor spray gun because they have to move a larger volume of air at lower pressure. So every time that you're spraying material, the 2 comes with what's called a 1.3. What that means is the hole in the end of this tip is 1.3 millimeters. And they go all the way from 0.8 all the way up to 2. Why you would want to use something different? If you're spraying latex paint, you're going to have a big hole because the particles are very large. And that's another part of an HVLP gun, is you're spraying a bigger droplet. You can imagine if you're using a paintbrush, you're trying to put on a uniform film of your material. If you use a high pressure gun, you're atomizing the paint or the finish into little bitty particles that you're spraying on. And traditionally, automotive shops, that kind of thing, you get a much smoother surface, but again, you waste a lot more finish. With an HVLP gun, you are spraying a larger droplet, so you have to be careful. If you spray it too heavy, you'll get what's called orange peel, where it really looks like the peel on an orange. But all the different sets that are 3 parts to every set. Number 1, you get a needle. This needle goes all the way through to the air cap. So anytime you want to change your air cap and your spray system, your nozzle, you get a new nozzle, a new pin, and a new air cap, because if you've got a bigger hole spraying out more material, you need to move the air much more efficiently. So every one comes in the 3-part system. You get the needle, you get this nozzle which is the size, you get an air cap to distribute the spray. On these guns, the bottom knob controls how much of your fluid is coming out of the cup. The top one controls the fan. And if you haven't sprayed, these guns will spray from a dot to a fan of about 15 inches. And depending on what you're spraying, you want to be someplace in between the dot and the full fan. The wider you get the fan, the more spread out the material is all the way at the edge of your fan. And by the edge of the fan, you can spray horizontal or a vertical fan. So when you move your cap from upright or vertical to horizontal, you change the direction of the fan. So depending on what you're spraying, if you're spraying up and down, you're going to want it oriented so that the fan goes out this way. If you're spraying back and forth, you want to orientate the cap so that the fan goes like this. And the other thing about spraying, if your gun is clean and it's not spraying very well, you may be using the wrong cap. And Fuji provides a sheet with every one of their sprayers. And the way you determine which tip you should use is you use a viscosity cup. Fuji provides one of these. And the way it works, say you're spraying lacquer and you've got it in a gallon can. You take the viscosity cup and put it in the gallon. And you lift it up and start your stopwatch. And the fluid's going to be running out the bottom of the cup. When you don't wait for it to stop totally. You wait for the stream to become droplets and then hit your timer. And then you look at a chart and it tells you by how many seconds it took which cap you should be using. And I like to think, when people talk about viscosity as thickness, I like to think of it as slipperiness, because I've sprayed some things that feel kind of thick, but they're slippery. They spray really well. A few other things to consider Fuji makes a great cleaning kit, but be very careful when you're cleaning your gun, because with the hard pick or an ice pick or something like that, or even a scratch on, you can do really damage to these nozzles. I've had mine for 10 years and they're just fine. And I'll talk a little bit about how I spray. I'm principally a guitar builder. I build some furniture, but I have always used a gravity gun just because that's how I started. And this is Fuji's, I guess, top of the line gun. You can get it as an option when you buy their 5-fan system, their Q5. But I like it because I can tilt it. So if I do a lot of spraying straight down, and I don't do much up, but I have some friends that do, and they love that about it. The disadvantage of these guns is setting them down. You know, I keep my turbine 20 feet away from where I'm working, and I use a remote control to turn it on and off. Then I disconnect the hose, then I've got to set this down someplace. When I went to the Fuji school, they used exclusively these siphon guns, and it's nice to be able to disconnect the hose and set it down. So, you know, the system is simple. The thing I encourage people to do is practice. I mean, in my shop, I have a huge roll of that brown wrapping paper, heavy paper, and I just pull a sheet of it down, and every time I use a gun, I treat it like I've never sprayed that material before. I shut the flow all the way down, start opening it up, and start spraying, and I adjust my fan, because I like to spray with a fan of only about 6 inches, because I'm doing a heavy overlap, and I'm putting on a heavy coat of a really thin material, nitrocellulose lacquer.
So, do you have any questions as far as it pertains to Fuji spray systems or spraying in general? Please let us know. We'll be glad to answer those for you. And that was Mr. Jack Hastings of our Asheville store. Yes, and when he says he's a guitar builder, chairs, guitars, you name it. There's a lot of stuff actually in the Asheville store that he built that is in there as well. I know the chairs in the library are his.
Yeah, I think he built the whole countertops too, did he not?
If I'm not mistaken, yes. So the countertop in which you walk in and talk to somebody there, that is all him. Glass display and all. And then actually a lot of the things in the glass display is from people who either work there, club members, customers that have come in and made a project and they want to display it. All of that is there as well to inspire you on woodworking and getting into the craft.
Yeah, and we offer quite a few options in the spray systems. Obviously, Fuji has several models in their lineup. We also carry a couple other brands as well. The Erlex is real popular, a little bit less expensive. There are some feature bit differences as well. And I believe we are in the process of bringing in a new small scale spray line, which will really benefit some of you turners that like to do the little airbrushing. We are looking at the Grex line. Those should be available soon.
Very cool. Yep. Grex does make one of the nicest, if you're used to the Beaver name in airbrushing, Grex is going to be right up there with that quality.
Yeah, and all of their parts, I had an opportunity to sit in on one of their little demos, if you will, a few weeks ago, and I'm quite impressed. And I've been holding out for a bigger machine, but I think I may be leaning towards one of their machines because one of their kits includes the compressor and the gun and everything you need, and most of the needles that they would have would very easily fit what I do. So if you're not interested in a real big gun like what you saw in the Fuji, we do have some nice airbrush kits coming, and they have a couple of cup options as well. So keep an eye out on that. You will be very impressed with the Grex lineup. I know I was, and I look forward to that reaching our stores for sure.
Yeah, that'll be something I'll be getting into is airbrushing. I used to do it a lot back in the day, and it's one of those things that, it's not always something that you do, but when you have that ability and you have that control over, putting it forward in fluid and air, you can really do some really cool things that are detail oriented on the piece. Jack had mentioned in that video, we were showing the Semi Pro 2, but he had mentioned it as a 25-foot hose with it, and that hose is pretty rigid. It really is. It's very durable. I mean, I think it's even made for, you could roll over it with a car, per instance. If that happened, you're not completely out a hose. But I will say that if you have ever done anything with a pneumatic hose that is not a urethane base, but like a rubber hose that you want to see about their 6-foot whip hose, that is a much lighter weight. So if you do a lot of movement with your gun, that hose is going to give you more free movement than their standard 25-foot hose. Plus it adds an extra 6 feet to it. So therefore you can get a little bit of, reach there, because overall 31 feet from the unit is pretty good.
Very flexible.
Very flexible. The Erlex system is another one we've mentioned. That's a great starter kit. It's also a turbine unit. Hose and everything is in this nice convenient package. It doesn't have a remote or an ability to add a remote to it. It is just straight on or off, but it will do a very good job, especially if you're starting out or looking for something to use that is HVLP related and turbine related. I myself, I spray a lot, and I use the conventional air compressor rubber lines, but I have started using a lot more of this Fuji MPX30. This is something Klingspor's Woodworking Shop also carries. This gun right here has proven to me that if you use a cheaper spray gun, you'll actually be wasting a lot more material. Like what Jack was mentioning is that when you spray it, the rest of your material that's waste goes into the air. I have found that I can spray 3 times more products with same even coverage and not waste as much product. So on your clear coats and things like that, I save a lot more money now by having the better spray gun. So there is definitely a difference when you're using spray equipment. So hopefully that'll help somebody out there.
Cool.
Yeah, you're cool. I can't wait for the airbrush stuff. That's going to be fun.
Well, and one of the kits is actually is designed for spraying lacquers and traditional finishes, and it's got a little bit larger cup gun. I can't remember the size, but I was quite impressed. It's a perfect bridge between the two, and then you can even still go back and use the little airbrush, trigger
attachment to go along with
attachments. But it's actually got a traditional trigger style gun to use for normal, a little bit larger projects.
Very cool.
That's perfect for my CNC stuff for sure.
So what happens if you're a wood finisher or a wood turner and you're looking for a finish that is not sprayable? Well, we have a few options that we covered yesterday that we want to recover. One would be the Mahoney's Utilitarian Walnut Oil Finish. This is very good for if you have cutting boards or anything like a salad bowl, anything that you're actually going to be using instead of a display piece. This is a very good finish for that. Also, if you want to polish it up a little bit more to not be as utilitarianly dull but have a better shine, then they also make the walnut oil with beeswax and carnauba wax infused into it as well.
Yeah, and we have quite a few options when it comes to wood turning finishes. A lot of friction polishes, a lot of waxes, a lot of oils, and some food grade, some more traditional. So, if there's something particular you're looking for, definitely reach out, let us know, and go visit the website, woodworkingshop.com, and you can check out some of those wood turners type finishes that are readily available.
Absolutely. Yeah. Everything from water-based to oils. We have something that'll be able to work with somebody's needs. Absolutely. If you are looking for a very good food safe, and the Mahoney's was food safe, but if you have any kind of questions as far as it being a walnut oil, Walrus Oil makes a very good wood wax that is FDA compliant and food safe for food contact. It is beeswax, coconut mineral, and vitamin E. So you have a lot there. Now, if you don't need as much wax in there, they also make the standard walrus oil cutting board oil. That is very good for any kind of utilitarian finish. So therefore, it's something that you can add on there, and then it's very food safe.
Yeah, and if you missed yesterday and you're more of a lacquer type person, go check out yesterday's broadcast and check out the aerosol options that we have at the Woodworking Shop. I think you'll be quite impressed with the presentation on that, and it'll definitely be an eye-opener and an education to understanding what the different lacquers are and how different ones can produce different results. And Mike did a good job explaining that. So feel free to go check that out, and if you're more of a lacquer person.
Absolutely. And when we're talking ChromaCraft finishes, and we're not just talking about your standard top coats or your dyes, they also make very cool special effects finishes. This one here in particular is the Web Effects, made famous by Nick Agar. And you can add something a little different to your piece, your turning, or in Chris's case, he added it to his CNC drawer fronts. And on his CNC machine, on the toolbox, and on the stand, he has created this look using the terracotta. I'll make sure I didn't say red this time, but the terracotta web, sprayed down a silver paint and then put that on there, and looks like this when it's all said and done. So there's different options. You don't have to be a wood turner to use some of these specialty finishes. You can get creative with it on your own if you'd like.
Yep, and the nice thing is you can tape areas off and be able to do something unique. That particular accent was the exact same angle and design for the side part of my gantry, so that's kind of where that sort of image came from, and I wanted to mimic that so it would be a little bit of a flow in the design. But whatever you're doing, you can tape that off and be able to apply that lightly just to give just a little bit of texture, or you can apply it heavy. And either way, it gives you a really unique look that stands a lot slightly up from the surface, and it definitely adds a really cool texture piece that would be almost impossible to get any other way.
Absolutely. And so we covered again, we do have turning chucks. We have both the Nova, which has the hex head turning ability, or we have the one way, which uses the standard drill chuck. Both of them are available if you are looking for a new chuck upgrade. And let's
Full accessories for all of them.
Full accessories for all of them, including adapters. And we did figure out we do have the screws. So if you've lost the screws to your Nova or one way, we do have extra screws available.
And that brings up a good point, because that particular situation came up the other day, and it was we couldn't find it online. So if you're looking for something particular and you don't see it on our website, please don't leave. Always reach out to us and we can check and see, because a lot of items, they're either not listed on the web, and we've got them in stock in our warehouse, or it's something that we can get relatively easily. So, if there's something weird you're looking for, an accessory or replacement part, always reach out to us and let us know. And most of the time, we may actually have it in stock. So in this case, we did, and the customer was able to call in, place his order, and be on his way. So let us know.
So we had a question over at the AAW in our trade show booth, and that is Kathy asking, does the free shipping code apply to the Arbor Tech items and also a CBN wheel? It does. It applies to all orders of $40 or more. Any which way you want to combine that, or you want to have sandpaper and a CBN wheel, whatever works for you, anything $40 or more will be able to use that free shipping coupon for standard shipping in the 48 continental United States.
Yeah, so if your order equals $39, just find you something else to put on the order.
Absolutely. Like, for instance, an abrasive and proud of it sticker, which we have featured here. You can get one of those very cheaply. I think they're like $1.
And we've also got magnets of those as well, I believe, don't we?
Magnets and coasters, yes. And some of the magnets we had featured in the extravaganza video. For instance, Miss Rebecca DeGroot was turning on a Harvey lathe, and we had those magnets stuck to that lathe. Also, if you're looking for, let's say, a smock, Klingspor's Woodworking Shop has both black and tan Turner smocks that come complete with ventilation in the pit area, as well as a comfortable yet tight neckline, so therefore you don't get chips down the shirt. Also has a front pocket that has a flap and 2 rear pockets, which are large enough to hold a large cell phone, or in this case here, a pencil.
Yeah, so if you're getting shavings all over you and people are laughing at you, don't get mocked. Get a Klingspor's Woodworking Shop turning smock.
That was so good. I have no comment.
Don't get mocked, get a smock.
That's right. Also, we would like to thank Jerry Meismer for visiting both us virtually as well as coming to film with us. Whenever he comes into the shop here, we like to always say, thank you so much. Can you sign my head? And in this case here, he had no problem signing Chris's head, and he had a lot of fun doing it. So we just want to thank Jerry Meismer for stopping by and signing Chris's head.
Yeah, I later went to the tattoo parlor and made it permanent. Not really.
I was going to say, I don't see it.
Well, I get my makeup on.
Oh,
We're filming today. I have my makeup on.
God. Oh, okay. That's it. One of the tools that is the most used tool we found in the shop is a Klingspor exclusive. It is available at other competitors, but this particular product is something that Klingspor Abrasives is the only one in the world who makes it, and that is the Sandflex block. The Sandflex block is a great block, comes in coarse, medium, and fine, and used to clean your cast iron surfaces, used to clean tools in the shop, sharpen tools, you name it. The Sandflex block is a great product that is rubber with infused grit.
Yeah, so if you find your tailstocks not sliding too smoothly across your bedways anymore, it could be due to rust or pitting, and you do a light cleaning with a medium or fine version of that Sandflex block, and you'll find that tailstock will be riding smooth as silk from here on out.
At Sandflex, only available at Klingspor's Woodworking Shop and our competitors. Why do we like to say that? Because it's the only thing in the entire world like it, and we like it. And well, we all have one. What can we say? It lasts forever. Really does. It's impervious to chemicals, cleaners, oils, because it's a full rubber block with grit infused. So what does that mean for you? You buy one set, I think they're like $11, and you're good to go. That's it. That's all you need. You can cut them with a razor blade if you want to, a wire cutter, a saw. I mean, they cut pretty easy, but at the same time, you can shape them too. Really like them.
Yeah, very handy for every shop, home, RV, boat. Great for every application just about, and they do amazing. If you're a golfer, those things do fantastic for cleaning up your golf clubs. That's right, golfing.
That's right. Sports only with Klingspor Woodworking Shop Abrasives. And let's say that you're new to turning or you're looking to up your sharpening game in a quick instance. I highly recommend the Tormek WM200 wheel and angle gauge adjustment block. What this does is that the left side here, you'll notice, is the diameter of your sharpening wheel. So if you have a Tormek, then it is around the 250 range or 10 inches. If you have an 8-inch bench grinder, you adjust it for whatever size your wheel is. You put the round part on the wheel, hence why it's round. The flat one goes onto your tool. And then you set the angle you would like for that tool. And as you can tell around the perimeter, it gives you all the predetermined angles. So if you're not quite sure what yours has, you can stick it in there and be able to find it very quickly. But this makes anything very fast and quick sharpening where you don't need a bunch of jigs and all this other stuff. It's just one of those tools that's very good. We have Steve Smith coming at us live. Jeopardy question. What woods are traditionally in the Israel, Syria, Iraq area? Any available here in their U.S.?
I know olive wood's popular there.
We've got pen blanks for olive wood.
Yeah, I'm sure there are others, but I know olive wood's probably the most popular.
Yep. Yeah, let me see. That's another one of those things that we had in the store level, is we actually had blessed olive wood, but we didn't have it online. So we've got olive wood in knife scales, pen blanks, and single pen blanks, all that you can purchase from woodworkingshop.com. We do have them in stock. Just search olive wood.
If that wasn't the correct answer or question, since you said Jeopardy, what would be the correct question? I guess we didn't phrase it as a question. What is olive wood?
What is olive wood? Yeah, we didn't phrase it as a question, so instantly we got it wrong. That's out.
But if that's not the wood you were inquiring about, please let us know.
Absolutely. Which one was it, Steve? You let us know if we got it wrong. And obviously we got the question wrong because we didn't form it in the phrase of a question. Gerald Vance, good afternoon, sir, from the Appalachian Heritage Woodshop. Thank you for joining us. If you haven't seen that channel yet, go check out that channel on YouTube. Is there any discounts on CBN wheels? Not as of right now. Oh, let me check this real quick. Sorry, apologize. We also have the other things going on here.
I answered that one, by the way.
Coupon code?
Okay.
I didn't see the coupon code. Sorry. All right, so we got one video left. We've got about 30 minutes left of our 4-hour stream. If you hadn't seen any of it, you can scroll all the way back. We do make it available to have scrolling during the live stream, so you can go back and catch anything you may have missed. And yesterday's as well should be right there with it. Let's see. So this is the trend sharpening video. So what I'm going to do is jump around a little bit on this one because there's some areas covered that are not something we need to cover in this one. But the sharpening part of how to use a trend diamond stone is what I do want to show. And if you are unfamiliar, a trend diamond stone is a small, there's several different styles, but this one in particular that they use a lot is the credit card size. So very small, can go in your wallet, has 600 and 320 grit, I believe, on there. So therefore you can do carbide, you can do your turning tools, quick and easy, good to go. Mr. Steve Smith said he was looking for suggestions, looking at making some crosses and using biblical woods.
Olive wood's probably going to be the most available.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. We'll think about it during the video and then get back to you. But the harder part is the export of that right now.
Yep.
For some other woods, but anything that's really in that Mediterranean region would be just fine because that's what they would have had available at that time. There is one customer that we have that does nothing but crosses, but they make them out of bloodwood, ebony, sepale, and Paduke, if I'm not mistaken. So they use all kinds of different exotics from that region. But I haven't looked into more in depth. And Mr. Roy Boggs, howdy from Kentucky. Hello, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good to have you here.
Absolutely. So let's take a look. So like I said, I'm going to jump around just a little bit here. So please bear with the jumps. But here is the AAW. What we have in this is Morris Schlesinger. If you don't know him, he may look familiar on that. If you've ever been to our extravaganza, you'll definitely recognize him because he does a great job on sharpening as well as turning different things. A lot of salt and pepper shakers, so he uses a lot of Forstner bits. And he's definitely one heck of a sport when it comes down to sharpening those and making them look great. And Mr. Gary Jones. Hello, Gary. Thank you for joining us. So let's take a look at this.
On our flat surface, like on that tooth, you can see there's a flat surface. We bring the stone up to the flat surface, and all it is just a couple of strokes on the flat surface. We're not changing the profile at all. Just a couple of strokes. If you keep in mind 2 or 3, whatever's comfortable for you. And that's generally all that it takes. Now the prime cutting surface are right here. To sharpen that, we have another flat. All we have to do is lay the stone flat against it. And once we're flat, you can feel it. Once it comes flat, we can just maintain that very little to no pressure. All we're trying to do is maintain contact. We'll do the same thing on the other side and just find the flat. You can feel right when it comes to the point. And you can see on the other side just as we touched it. Now the other type of Forstner bit are these that have a wavy or a curved and convex
rim
chip breaker.
Yeah.
Okay. Now either the smallest taper or the middle-sized taper will work equally well. What we're trying to do is come right across and touch both surfaces, the cutting surface and the base down here. We just want to be able to make contact with both of those. Once we do, it's just a light, just a real light movement. And you can see at the top and the bottom where it's just been touching, there's a little bit of a line there. And that's all that it takes. The same thing on the flat surface. Again, we can either use the file, which you can see I get much better coverage if I use something a little bit larger. Same system. Flip it around. That's basically it. Again, on the flat for the cutting surface, just lay the flat side of either the credit card or the tapered file flat against it, couple of strokes. Again, and you're up and ready to go. Now, generally, these newer Forester bits are generally of a little bit higher quality steel than some of the older models, and you're going to find these diamond hones are going to give you excellent results on this better steel.
Are you using much pressure?
No pressure, just enough to keep in contact.
Very good.
It's all the pressure that you need. There are some Forester bits out there that I've ran across lately that are carbide tipped. All right. Now, I've tried these out. They work very well. And the way that we're going to sharpen them is quite similar. What I'll take to start with is the credit card stone. And you'll find that either the small tapered files or the credit card stone are going to work. One of the two of them are going to work really well for you. Everyone has a touch, and you have to find the one that's going to work best for you. But with the carbide, with the main cutters, we do the same thing. We're finding the flat. Watch the carbide show up.
That's awesome.
I'm using a finer stone on the carbide than I use on the steel. You can see the carbide coming off. And what we're trying to do is maintain that flat. Now, when I'm getting up here on the chip breakers, this is a little, it will work, but it's a little awkward for me. So what I do is I go to something smaller that will work a little bit better for me, and a little more lapping fluid. It just takes a touch, but it does such a good job, and it makes things work just so much better. But again, we're just coming up and finding the flat. Flip it over, find the flat. Come to the other side and find the flat. And find the flat one more time. But if you notice, I'm moving the stone, I'm not moving the bit. And you can see the amount of carbide that's coming off just with a few strokes. Okay? All right, just to give you an idea of the amount of material we took off with just off the carbide, and you saw the few strokes that it took, just clean it off on a white piece of paper. And you can see the amount of material that came off. Now, we all know in sharpening, to get a sharp edge and bring those two planes together to where they're at the proper angle to do the job that you wanted to do, material has to be removed. What we want to do is remove the least amount of material to get the sharpest product we have. This is the only way that I know of that it can get there. But that's the amount of material that just a few strokes with a 600 grit tapered file pulled off of that carbide. I found that I get better results and better cutting action by using the trend diamond lapping fluid. It's a very lightweight petroleum product of some sort, and I really don't know what it consists of, but it's super lightweight, and it allows the diamonds to cut rather than fill the space between the diamonds.
So I guess it's an important part of our story to mention how the business relationship with Morris began, and of course, we've all dealt with Klingspor over the years, but Morris called one day, and I always thought it would be a great story for people to learn how to do business. And one of the first things I would tell young people is to use your eyes, your ears, and your mouth, a distant third. Well, Morris called in one day, and he was using his mouth. He was telling me how much he was not happy with the Air Pro, and it was breaking on him and all this, and we got him fixed up on that. But I had mentioned that we would, I happened to answer the telephone, and by the way, to backtrack a moment, and Morris was an irate customer. We got him fixed up, and then I asked him to try the diamond hones, and he emphatically explained that he did not want to try the diamond hone because he didn't like diamond. Well, I sent him one anyway. And then Morris called back a few weeks later and said, you know, I kind of like that. And Morris, you might want to explain how that started to develop.
Well, actually, when Jamie sent me the small 3-inch tapered file and a little bit of fluid, and he said, try it out. And I said, I have absolutely no interest. I've got a nice sharpening system that I use for my wood turning tools. And my experience with the diamonds in the past has been just a total waste of money. So I've got no interest at all. And I'm sitting here doing pepper mills, and I'm eating up Forester bits just about as fast as anybody that's had anything to do with pepper mills know how fast they go. And I'm getting a little bit tired of buying Forester bits and smoking them up. So I'm sitting there thinking, somewhere in the back of my mind, somebody kept telling me that when you're sharpening, if you can keep the flats flat and just keep working on the flats, saw blades, chisels, whatever, you want to work that flat. And I looked at the Forester bits and I said, well, the tooth, they're actually flat. On these original Forester bits, they have a flat surface because you really can't do anything with the profile. So you have to sharpen the tooth some way, and it has a flat on it. And the cutting surface itself is a flat. So I took the little bit of the lapping fluid, and I went around those flats just trying to get an idea of what was happening. And you could see there was some material being removed. And I said, well, I just wonder what's going to happen when I put this thing, it's all blue, you know, it's smoked up pretty bad. And I said, I'm just wondering what this thing will actually do. This was before I got into the beer that afternoon. And I kept playing with it a little bit. And I said, well, you know, you can actually see where something's happened there. So I stick it back in the drill chuck and put me another piece of wood in the chuck on the lathe and crank it on there. And I said, wow, there's a difference. Not much, but you know, it seemed to improve just a little bit. It's not quite as much smoke rolling out of it. So I wonder what'll happen if I did it again. Well, about the third or fourth iteration, this thing was cutting like it was brand new, and it was smoked so bad. It was blue, okay? And then it started cutting, just like after the third or fourth iteration, it started cutting like a brand new Forester bit. So I got me some more pepper mill blanks, and I said, let's just see what's going to happen here. So I started boring the pepper mill blanks out, the 1 16th hole that is so difficult to get through. And just as soon as my Forester bit started slowing down just a little bit, I pulled it out and touched it up, put it back in. This thing's cutting great. Cut another pepper mill, said, I wonder. Reached down there and touched that thing up again. Getting a little bit warm, so I had to let it cool down. Put it back in there, and this thing's cutting. I'm not buying Forester bits anymore. I'm sharpening them. That's the job that little thing will do. with your forester bits.
And that's the mini taper file, the 3-inch mini taper with a flat and a half round.
And it's all because of my Air Pro. And if I hadn't a broken part on my Air Pro, I'd have never known about it.
And as they say, the rest is history.
The rest is history. Down the road we go. Grip credit card and stuff.
Well, and Mike, you're muted, so just take care of that and be
Thanks for
excited
being
about that video. Morris is, if you've never seen Morris at a show, he's turned at quite a few different symposiums, and I'll tell you, the guy is he is a character, but as far as his knowledgeable, man, the dude is just so super smart when it comes to turning and being able to turn more effectively, and in this case, improve your tools and the life of your tools.
Yes, and when you were going through as many Forstner bits as he was going through to make pepper mills, and he had a similar situation like with Jerry, where it was a few and then turns into hundreds more, and that was the same situation that Morris was in, and then all of a sudden, he had basically like a tub full of burnt up Forstner bits that he then turned into sharpening them and no longer buying them anymore. So the one when I first met him was that one in particular. That he had, and it was blue and it was rusted, and it looked like he had buried it in the ground and then unburied it to do his demonstration for the turning club. And sure enough, there was a hole. I think I got 15 feet out of one strand chip. That's how clean it was. So I was sold after that. I understood more about diamond stones, about how to use them properly. I had used them improperly before, wearing them out very quickly. So that's why I wasn't a fan of them myself. I was in the same boat he was. To where if you apply too much pressure to a diamond stone, you wear out the diamonds. So it's very little pressure goes a long way.
Yep, and that same process works equally well on router bits as well. So
yep. Now I think the rest of the video here, or some of the part that's up next, is actually him doing turning tools. So I'd like to show that as well. So that way you can take your turning tools if you don't want to have a huge system, a bench grinder. You just want to touch and go with high speed steel, especially. Now, he will tell you in this that you can do carbide bits, so you can stop buying new carbide bits by doing these, but it's always recommended to have some sort of fluid, as you don't want that dust to get airborne. You want to keep it on the ground or on the tool as much as possible. So we'll take a look at that part here, but there was so much sharpening information in this video. Every tool that's on that table he went through, and for last year's AAW, we showed this, and I mean, it's a very long video, but at the same time, great points all throughout it. So here we go.
We're going to talk about wood turning tools, and our initial tool that we normally are first introduced to is a roughing gouge. And to sharpen the roughing gouge, we have a convex surface like we referred to when we were using this large scraper. It's the same principle. This is just a little bit smaller. We find the two flats, the two surfaces. See how it goes right to them. And we rotate the stone, maintaining contact with those two surfaces. And the stone is rotating, not the tool, as we go around it. Now, initially, when you first start off, there's a little bit of muscle memory that has to be developed. And we're going to be doing a little of this and a little of this. And that's normal. But to keep it up to where you can see the 2 points are in contact, pretty soon you'll be able to feel them. And it just rotated around. And I believe you can see where the two surfaces have been touching. And now you've got a perfectly sharp edge on your M2 high-speed steel.
And Morris, would it be fair to say that this doesn't replace the grinder, but there's a synergy between the grinder and the diamond? And
what it's doing is it's complementing. When you go to the grinder, most people are grinding for maintaining sharpness between 100 and 120, or between an 80 and 120 grit wheel on the grinder. Every time you go to the grinder, you see the sparks fly. In other words, we're shortening the tool. As we're shortening the tool, we're putting money in somebody else's pocket. What we want to do is get the most we can out of the material that we have. So I profile the tool with the grinder. Then I take the diamond hone between sharpenings on the grinder and profiling, and I use the diamond hone to bring the edge back. Now, if you're doing a bunch of spindle work, you're taking the flats down, you're making it round, fine. You're doing a series, you go through a series, you feel it starting to drag just a tad. Once it starts dragging, stop, touch it up. Takes 10-15 seconds and you're back to running. But you didn't see any sparks flying. Yeah. You didn't shorten the tool up. You remove material. You can see the material, the real dark gray. You can see the material that's came off.
And this tool that Morris is using for the roughing tools is a double-sided stone. It's a 180-300 grit. And the 180 is basically what we call the grinder that you don't have to plug in. It's very, very aggressive, and there's a story behind that we'll tell you for the day.
That's the material that we took off, just in a matter of seconds.
You just flip that over to show it's two stones in one, Morris.
I'm sorry?
Would you mind flipping it over to show?
Oh, there's the 180 on the 180 side, which I use on primarily everything I turn with as far as the basic wood turning tools go. The exception will be the skew, and at that point I generally go to the 300.
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you.
But almost everything else is the 180. Now again, with the spindle gouge, which is generally the next tool you'll go to, you'll have a convex surface again once you profile the tool on the grinder. Then you can come in, you can see right where the two surfaces have come together, where you've got your edge and you've got your heel. And as long as those two are in contact, we're simply maintaining that contact, and again, we're rotating the stone and not the tool. Generally, it takes about 10 seconds. And again, you can start seeing where there's a line forming at the top where the edge is and a line forming at the heel. When those two lines come together, then you've taken off a lot of material. And it's about time to pre-profile. We go to the bowl gouge, identical. We've got a convex surface. We find the 2 points of contact, which is the edge and the heel. They go right there. Rotate the stone. Do not have to worry about rotating the tool at all. And keep it in a position that you can feel the 2 points of contact as well as observe what's going on. It takes a little bit of time and a little bit of practice, but once you get it down, it's just a matter of 10 to 15 seconds, you're back rocking and rolling.
Morris, I've had many people tell me that they want to sharpen the inside of the gouge. What is the reason for that, and how would you do it?
In my experience, it goes back to wood carvers. Well, wood carvers have gouges, and they have to have a little bit flatter surface, or a little bit less of a convex surface than we use, and their bevels are much longer. But they can't afford any burr on the inside. That burr has got to be gone. Where we just go ahead, our wood is spinning and we're taking miles of wood off where they take inches. That burr goes away in a hurry and we're off and running. But there is a school that says that burr needs to be removed, and it will maintain, the tool will be maintained sharper longer. Everybody has their ideas on that. All of them are correct. But if you do want to take the burr out of your turning tools, these taper files are great. They just lay right in there. You can take them straight out. A piece of leather will take that burr off also. But it's another school. It's a different idea. It all works. It's personal preference.
Thank you.
Okay. If you do want to take like I said, you do want to take the burr out, you don't want to go to the process of picking up another tool, you can take a small piece of leather, run it straight up the inside, just like I'm running my finger. It'll take the burr right off for you. Okay?
Very good.
One of the other two, well, let's talk about the skew just a little bit. Normally, if the skew has been damaged in some way, I'll start with the 180 grit side. And it's, again, we got a convex surface. We're doing everything exactly the same. Flip it over. Everything is exactly the same as with regular wood turning tools. Just maintain those two surfaces, the edge and the heel, and you'll be in good shape. Once I've made sure there are no chips or dings on the cutting edge itself, I'll flip it over. Use the 300 grit side to get a cutting edge that if you're really like to show off your manhood, you can show shaving your arms with this thing. You could shave with it, but it's a little rough. But you can take the hair off your arms with that edge that's on there right now.
And what about, do people go even finer grit with the skews?
They can, but you reach a point where anything much above 300 grit seems to, you start losing some of your control. I mean, it starts getting just a little bit too sharp.
I got you.
Okay? Or too fine of an edge. Maybe better than the sharpness. We'll talk a little bit about the scrapers again. We showed the large one that gives you the idea of what those 2 points of contact actually looks like with that gap in between them. That's an unusually large scraper, but I do some large bowls. This is more of a standard size scraper. It's the same idea. You got the 2 points of contact again, and it's just rotate the tool. And what we're trying to do at this point is develop a burr on the surface of the tool. This is the burr that we'll be actually cutting with. And it's pretty good, pretty uniform. Now, what's important with the scraper is before we go to put the new burr on, the burr is a wire edge, and as we're using it, it wears down and breaks off. And what we want to do before we put a new one on is make sure the old one is completely gone. We're dealing with flat surfaces again, aren't we? Doesn't that make it simple to take that thing down to where it's absolutely nothing? About as simple as it can be. So we know we have a flat surface. Now what we want to do is raise the burr. And again, the only thing we're doing is touching those two surfaces, the cutting edge and the heel, and rotating the tool. Now, when you're first using the scraper on a freshly turned bowl, and you're cleaning up the inside or the outside, you're going to have a lot of ripples from where your bowl gouge has gone from end grain to side grain, and it's bouncing just a little bit. So what I generally do is I'll make a couple of light passes using the 180 grit stone. When I'm making my final passes and I want those nice ribbons come rolling off, I'll take that edge off with the 300 grit side, come back with the 300 grit side, and 10 seconds. I've got a really fine burr edge, and I can take a very light cut and the ribbons will just fly off. Okay?
So that is Morris Schlesinger showing us how he sharpens with the Trin Diamond Stones. If you'd like to check out the full video on that, I believe it's about a 45-minute sharpening video, all in depth and telling you everything that you need to know, making your life easier. Check on woodworkingshop.com and also look up any trend, and they'll have the videos, as well as if you go to YouTube and then search Klingspor's Woodworking Shop, or if you're already on this video watching it, just go ahead and hit subscribe and then look for that video on our playlist. We have lots of different content available for you to check out that's not just sales pitches, but more of actual how to use the products, which is what we want to convey to everybody.
Yep. And if you like some of the content that you happen to scroll across on our YouTube page, click that little bell as well. Be notified when we launch new videos.
Absolutely. So this is Klingspor's Woodworking Shop. I'm Mike Z.
And I am Chris.
And we are done for the day. This has been our AAW Wood Turning Symposium weekend live show. We have another one from yesterday that joined us with Scott Caskey, a wood turning expert. So if you'd like to, you can check that out as well. But tons of content available. We have sales on everything happening until Wednesday, July 21st, which is 10% off of bandsaw blades, Robert Sorby, Arbor Tech, Chromacraft finishes, CA glues, Easy Wood tools and accessories, Rikon turning tools, Crown turning tools, as well as 25% off of our turning book selection and 20% off select abrasives, which are 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, and 1.5 inch discs in all different types. So if you'd like to, check that out at woodworkingshop.com. Give us a call at 800-228-0000. And on behalf of everyone for the AAW, this has been a great virtual experience. We appreciate everyone who's jumped into both our trade show as well as here on Facebook and YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Mike Z.
I'm Chris.
And we will see you all next time. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your weekend.